Warrior Lore. Chapter 532. The young lady was Chi Yeshi, who was ranked second on the martial roll. All the students in the academy knew that only Chi Yeshi could truly contend with Du Xiaofu. Chi Yeshi appeared and looked at the ruins around her. Broken walls were everywhere, blood flowed like a river, and countless corpses of the academy's students were piled up. Coldness surged in her bright eyes on her beautiful face, causing the surrounding temperature to suddenly drop. There's actually someone extraordinary. Old man Yinming looked at Chi Yeshi with a surprised expression. Then, he dashed out and an oppressive cold aura swept down from his hand, directly suppressing Chi Yeshi. Facing old man Yinming's attack, Chi Yeshi raised her head and looked at him without any fear. Her beautiful eyes were clear and cold, spreading out. You're just a mere martial emperor at the Nirvana realm. You're just an ant. The melodious and boundless voice was as vast as the sea of stars in the night sky. As the voice spread out, a palm print appeared out of thin air in front of Chi Yeshi. Mysterious runes surged out and directly destroyed Old Man Yinming's cold aura. In the end, it landed on Old Man Yinming's body effortlessly. Rumble. As the mysterious palm descended, the defenses on Old Man Yinming's body were destroyed in an unstoppable manner. Bang! Old Man Yinming's body directly fell to the ground from midair as fresh blood spurted out from his mouth. He smashed violently onto the ground, after which his eyes were suddenly filled with shock and fear. Old Man Yinming was a martial emperor at the Nirvana realm. He was considered an absolute expert in the central region. Who would have thought that he would be so weak at this moment? In an instant, numerous gazes immediately landed on Chi Yeshi. A staggering old man appeared before Chi Yeshi without a sound. His appearance was nothing special, and he seemed ordinary, but his appearance caused everyone's souls to tremble for no reason. How many people in the world would dare to touch Tianwu Academy? To think that it would be targeted by a bunch of ignorant ants. Perhaps this is the will of the heavens, sigh. The hobbling elder sighed. He knew of the history of Tianwu Academy. In the current world, even the major clans and powers didn't dare to touch Tianwu Academy, as they were the only ones who knew of the history of Tianwu Academy. They were the only ones who knew of the past glory of Tianwu Academy. They were the only ones who knew of the terrifying figures that came from Tianwu Academy. Those fearsome figures who had walked out of Tianwu Academy back then were comparable to the major clans and powers, and they looked down on the world with disdain. It had been a long time, and those terrifying figures in Tianwu Academy had long disappeared. Tianwu Academy had also gradually declined. However, the major clans and powers knew some secrets. Regardless of how Tianwu Academy had declined, the more secrets they knew, the more they wouldn't dare to touch Tianwu Academy. Yet, right now, a bunch of ignorant ants had destroyed Tianwu Academy. How could the hobbling elder not sigh in amazement? The stumbling old man sighed softly. He looked up at the sea of blood in the sky and said softly, "Even an inferior evil technique is very dazzling." As he sighed faintly, the staggering old man waved his hand and slapped at the sea of blood in the sky that covered the entire sky. Boom! As soon as the old man attacked, the surrounding space trembled. Mysterious glowing runes immediately surged out of thin air, converging into a five-fingered spatial handprint. The five-fingered handprint covered the sky and was like a revolving star. The mysterious runes on the runes seemed slow, but they were actually as fast as lightning. In an instant, the handprint landed on the sea of blood. Walala! The handprint slammed onto the sea of blood that blotted out the sky and earth. It was like the stars in the night sky releasing their light. It carried a vast aura that blotted out the sky and earth. The pressure was unparalleled and suppressed the sky. Under the terrifying handprint, the terrifying sea of blood cowered like a sheep in front of a ferocious tiger. Then, it was completely destroyed by the handprint. It was as though the divine radiance of the moon and stars were purifying the filth in the world, destroying the sea of blood as easily as crushing dry weeds. Bang! The sea of blood was completely destroyed and purified. A blood-colored figure fell from the sky and crashed into the ravine. Goo goo! At this moment, the entire place was in a daze. It was only after a long while that the sound of saliva being swallowed could be heard. Everyone's eyes were so shocked that they were about to pop out of their eye sockets. At this moment, Medicine King Ewuming, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others were no exception. They sucked in a breath of cold air. That terrifying elder was like a supreme being. Run. Everyone run. In the ravine far away, a blood-colored figure could be seen fleeing miserably. Not far away, Old Man Yin Ming was also fleeing for his life. Elder Kong, kill them, Chi Yeshi shouted. Her shrewd eyes were filled with coldness. Young miss, we can't interfere with the matters of the outside world. You should understand that. The hobbling elder looked at the fleeing blood demon and Old Man Yin Ming and sighed. Chi Yeshi said, they aren't the main culprits. In the future, someone will make them pay the price. Everything disappeared and the night returned. The ancient Tianwu Academy no longer existed. Everything was in ruins. Broken walls, cracks, and the smell of blood permeated the air. There were traces of tragedy everywhere. In the ruins, mournful cries could be heard. At dawn, the golden radiance of the morning sun gradually dyed the eastern horizon red and illuminated the earth. It was a pity that the ancient Tianwu Academy no longer existed. On a huge rock on a collapsed mountain, the first rays of the morning sun shone on Chi Yeshi's body. Her youthful and graceful figure seemed to be enveloped in a divine radiance. It was a breathtaking sight. How could he die? He definitely wouldn't. Chi Yeshi looked at the morning sun. Her eyes were like the starry sky, deep and clear. Her brows were tightly knitted. Young miss, according to what you said, if that brat really had a martial vein spiritual imprint, he wouldn't have died so easily. It wouldn't be easy to kill him. The tottering old man silently appeared behind Chi Yeshi and said, it's a pity that I can't personally prove whether he's a descendant of that clan or not. Is there really a descendant of that clan? He is so savage. Who can kill him? He will definitely be fine. Chi Yeshi softly muttered. In her mind, ever since her lips were marked in that battle, that savage figure had been imprinted in her mind. That resolute and determined face often appeared in her mind. The more she wanted to get rid of it, the harder it was for her to do so. Young miss, Tianwu Academy no longer exists. It's time for us to return. The 5 years in the Tianwu Talisman realm has already bought you enough time to build your foundation. We can't waste any more time. The other clans have their own methods as well. It's said that many top talents have emerged from the various clans this time. There are even some innate paragons, the hobbling elder said to Chi Yeshi. The next time I leave the clan will be the day the Dark Nether sect pays the price. Chi Yeshi softly muttered as a cold glint flashed across her eyes. Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. The academy that had stood for countless years no longer existed. It was reduced to ruins in a single night. When the news spread out, everyone was shocked. Countless forces rushed over and many experts rushed over. Some of them came to watch the show, but most of them had the intention to seek benefits. For a time, the ruins of Tianwu Academy were filled with people. The remaining students of Tianwu Academy were unable to stop them. The students of Tianwu Academy quietly buried the remains of the academy. No one dared to disturb the students of Tianwu Academy. Even the 4 major powers didn't dare to do so. After all, Grandma Silverflower had appeared to help Tianwu Academy last night. Out of fear for Grandma Silverflower, no one dared to touch the remaining students of Tianwu Academy. Time slowly passed, and several days later, amidst the ruins of Tianwu Academy, a massive mausoleum was erected. All of the fallen students were buried together, and on the massive tombstone, several thousand names were inscribed. In the dark forest, a large group of people rushed into Tianwu Academy. In the ruins of the mountain range, there were indeed people who found treasures and spiritual herbs. The herb fields of Tianwu Academy were destroyed and the spiritual herbs were scattered everywhere. Everyone fought over them, causing a bloody battle to break out. However, this kind of fighting was eventually snatched away by experts. Some people saw experts from the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects appear in the dark forest. There were also many mysterious experts who arrived and obtained many benefits. Some people even saw Shui Tianqiu, Wan Sampang, Hen Tian, Hen Di, Mu Mingqing, and the other leaders of the 4 major powers appear and snatch many benefits. However, they didn't stay for long. It was as though they had their own misgivings, because in the next few days, there seemed to be quite a number of kings who had rushed to Tianwu Academy to pay their respects to the heroic souls who had perished in Tianwu Academy. Some kings wailed sorrowfully, while others roared furiously, shocking the surroundings. Tianwu Academy was actually razed to the ground. It no longer exists. What is the background of the Dark Nether sect? How could they be so powerful? Brave King Du Xiaofu has fallen as well. He blocked that terrifying lightning with his own strength. How heroic! Several days had passed since Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. However, the topic of Tianwu Academy's destruction was still being discussed by many. In a hazy space, there was a dazzling light. At this moment, a figure could be seen floating in the hazy space. Sizzling sounds could be heard, and from time to time, there would be silver snake-like streaks of lightning shuttling around his body. At this moment, no one knew that Du Xiaofu, who everyone thought had died under Tianwu Academy's lightning, had actually appeared in this mystical space. Chapter 533. Lightning flashed around Du Xiaofu's body. His bloody body was covered in a mysterious net of light. The mysterious net of light flickered and jumped, as if a life was awakening and a will was awakening. An ancient pressure spread out from the mysterious light net, causing the surrounding misty space to tremble. Time passed slowly. The space was silent. Time seemed to have lost its meaning in this silent space. However, time could also be reflected in this space. It could be seen that the wounds on Du Xiaofu's body were gradually healing. There was also a life force jumping around. This proved that Du Xiaofu was not dead. He was just unconscious. However, this process was extremely slow. Du Xiaofu's injuries were too severe this time. Even if he relied on his abnormal defense and recovery, it would be difficult for him to recover in a short time. After an unknown amount of time, Du Xiaofu, who was suspended in the air, still showed no signs of waking up. However, one could see that his originally pale face had gradually become rosy after a long period of time. Even his aura had begun to fluctuate more and more intensely. Boom! After an unknown amount of time, it was certain that it was an extremely long time. Finally, a terrifying aura exploded from Du Xiaofu's body, destroying all of his clothes. Instantly, Du Xiaofu's purple gold heavenly tower, Du Xiaoyao's mountain rock, and the small pagoda Zhan Qingquan's foot all floated in the surrounding space. Even the Qingquan bags floated in the surroundings. Qilal. At the same time, Du Xiaofu's naked body was tightly connected to his meridians and blood vessels. The mysterious light net crisscrossed. The ancient aura made him seem like the king of this world. Du Xiaofu's eyes were still tightly shut. However, at this moment, his entire body was wrapped in a dense, mysterious light net. On the mysterious light net, lightning flashed like silver snakes. It was as if Du Xiaofu's body was wrapped in dazzling electric flames. Hualala! It was clearly the destructive power of lightning. However, at this moment, the unconscious Du Xiaofu's body gave off a feeling of vitality. Even as the electric light flashed, waves of shocking energy surged into Du Xiaofu's body, causing Du Xiaofu's weak aura to gradually recover. Within the electric light flashed, there was the destructive power of lightning. At this moment, if someone could see it, they would naturally be surprised to feel that the energy that was overflowing from the mysterious light and entering Du Xiaofu's body was the energy that the mysterious light net had devoured from the divine thunder sky annihilation. However, the sky's sea of lightning divine lightning seemed to have been purified and destroyed by the mysterious light net. The pure lightning power. When this pure lightning energy surged into Du Xiaofu's body, it was as harmonious as a fish swimming into the sea. It was as if the pure lightning energy was supposed to exist in this body. After being purified by the mysterious light net, it was unknown how much of the lightning energy could overflow. It continuously surged into Du Xiaofu's body. At the same time, it nourished Du Xiaofu's internal organs, limbs, cells, and blood vessels. Roar, space trembled, like the roars of dragons and tigers, like the awakening of gods and devils. Within the space, the purple gold heavenly tower that had left Du Xiaofu's body suddenly began to tremble. A monstrous baleful aura surged out, as if it was struggling with all its might, roaring and resisting. Walala, however, that shocking baleful aura seemed to be restrained and suppressed by a certain restrictive power within the sword. Although it was constantly resisting and struggling, it was unable to break free from the restraints for a moment. However, at this moment, the sword's body was trembling violently. Its fiendish aura was overflowing. It was likely that it was about to break free. Swish! In the misty space, the space suddenly fluctuated without a trace, and the figure of a burly man in his 40s appeared in this space. The middle-aged man had shoulder-length black hair. He was the mysterious burly man who often dozed off on a huge rock outside the Tianwu Talisman realm. As the black-haired man appeared, the violently trembling heavenly tower of purple gold seemed to have sensed something. It suddenly stopped struggling, and the sword buzzed with wind and thunder as it pointed the tip of the sword at the middle-aged man. Since you've already been restricted, just obediently stay there. Why do you have to come out and cause trouble? The eyes on the burly man's clean face looked at the purple gold heavenly tower. As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand. Suddenly, a dazzling light accompanied by a boundless ancient aura enveloped the purple gold heavenly tower. Voila! The boundless ancient aura spewed out multicolored light. In this misty space, it was like a comet blooming in the void. The dazzling divine light filled this space and immediately surged into the purple gold heavenly tower to suppress the fiendish aura. Woo-woo, we are of the same kind. Why are you helping them suppress me? I will definitely not let you off. Once I break free, I will definitely devour you. With the suppression of the vast and ancient aura, the purple gold heavenly palace suddenly emitted a shrill roar that sounded like a god fiend. You want to devour me? I'm afraid that's far from enough. Although you have some ability, you're still too weak. The burly man said softly. He formed a hand seal, and the boundless ancient aura surged into the purple gold heavenly tower, completely suppressing the purple gold heavenly tower. With the suppression of the burly man, the fiendish aura surging from the purple gold heavenly tower was directly purified. Amid the unwillingness and rage of the aura, the purple gold heavenly tower no longer moved. It was firmly suppressed again. As the purple gold heavenly tower was suppressed once again, the middle-aged man's body trembled slightly. Suddenly, it was like a flickering light, almost fading away. However, it quickly recovered, and he looked at the naked Du Xiaofu who was floating in the air. Whether it's a blessing or a curse in the future will depend on you. I hope you can live up to my expectations. As soon as the burly man finished speaking, he sighed. Then, his body began to flicker with light. In the end, it turned into mysterious runes that filled the sky. They flickered with multicolored light and filled the space with dazzling divine light. The mysterious runes flickered and arranged themselves. In the end, they turned into a shapeless sphere of light. It spun like a star and disappeared into the space between Du Xiaofu's eyebrows. Du Xiaofu was still unconscious and was unaware of all this. However, the aura around his body was rising. The pure lightning energy that overflowed from the mysterious light net around his body continuously surged into his body. In a daze, Du Xiaofu seemed to have entered a hazy dream. At the beginning, he entered a sea of lightning. The rolling sea of lightning seemed to contain the power of the heavens and earth. Destruction was accompanied by vitality. Du Xiaofu felt as if he was born from the sea of lightning. He wanted to absorb the energy in the sea of lightning to strengthen himself. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't absorb it. After that, Du Xiaofu entered a second dream. He seemed to have returned to the Tianwu Academy's Tianwu Talisman region and entered the long corridor that was spewing multicolored light. All of the beast energies, secret arts, martial techniques, and so on appeared before Du Xiaofu's eyes. They flickered with light and were illusory. Their auras were ancient and boundless. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was astonished to find that as long as he peeked into the beast energy secret arts, he would be able to see them in their most primitive state. They would break down, evolve, rearrange, and then condense again. This cycle continued endlessly, allowing him to comprehend their essence. The dream was hazy and dreamlike. However, Du Xiaofu was still immersed in it, and carefully comprehended the various beast energy secret arts. Du Xiaogang was deeply immersed in comprehending the various beast energy secret arts, and he didn't know when he would wake up. In the outside world, 3 months had passed since Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground. Thinking that Tianwu Academy had disappeared, countless people sighed. On the vast continent far away, there were overlapping mountain ranges and huge cities. It was as if a black ancient dragon was coiling across the horizon. A lady wearing orange-red tight clothes stood quietly at the top of the mountain overlooking the land. Her long and slender legs and her narrow waist that could not be hugged caused her originally tall figure to appear even more slender and enchanting. Her appearance was extremely moving. However, at this moment, this enchanting lady was frowning as she looked into the distance. Her eyes were moist as she muttered, "Have you really fallen? You said that you would wait for me to return. Are you going to go back on your words?" The destruction of Tianwu Academy caused a huge commotion in the Dark Forest. However, after 3 months, peace gradually returned to the Dark Forest. The Dark Forest was the Dark Forest. It had its own order and rules. In the Dark City, in a vast hall of the Black Fiend sect, many figures were seated and their auras weren't weak. Among them was a black-robed, skinny old man in his 60s. He had a gloomy expression on his face. He was the sect master of the Black Fiend sect, Shui Tianqiu. Sect master, Du Xiaofu hasn't appeared in the past 3 months. I'm afraid that he is already dead. With Tianwu Academy destroyed, the World Society has lost its backing. According to the information we have gathered, the Eagle King's Gong Blade has been crippled and the Medicine King is severely injured. The World Society no longer has any experts and now is the best time to eliminate them. In the hall, a tall and skinny old man in his 70s spoke to Shui Tianqiu. He was dressed in a long robe that gave off a cloak. He was Hermit Wuzhan, who had left the World Society back then. Chapter 534. Hermit is right. Now is the best time to destroy the World Society. It's a pity that Du Xiaofu is dead. I can't kill him personally, so it's not enough to extinguish the hatred in my heart. Shui Tianqiu's face was gloomy as a murderous aura spread out from his body, causing the surrounding space to show signs of distortion. His deep eyes were filled with cold anger as he looked at Hermit Wuzhan. There was some worry in the depths of his eyes as he said to Hermit Wuzhan in a low voice, "Even if that brat Du Xiaofu is dead, I won't let him off. However, there is still the Chaos Demon Cliff in the Chaos Demon City. If we eliminate the World Society now, I'm afraid we won't be able to obtain the Chaos Demon City. The silver-winged demonic condor won't be easy to deal with. Moreover, the Medicine King, Yi Wuming, is still in the World Society. If we fight with the Medicine King and both sides suffer heavy losses, the Mu Clan Fort, Twin Hatred Sect, and Myriad Cloud Pavilion might not take the opportunity to deal with us. Sect Master, I have an idea. If we succeed, we will be killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Not only will we be able to destroy the World Society, but we will also be able to control the Medicine King. That would be, hee. Hermit Wuzhan sneered coldly before whispering something into Shui Tianqiu's ear. Shui Tianqiu's gloomy face revealed a smile, as if he was extremely excited. Hermit, will this really work? When Shui Tianqiu finally learned of the plan, his old face trembled with excitement. There definitely won't be any problems. As long as the plan doesn't have any problems, it will be foolproof. When the time comes, hee. Hermit Wuzhan laughed sinisterly as his eyes glowed with vigor. He naturally had absolute confidence in his plan. When Shui Tianqiu heard this, his eyes glowed with vigor. However, there was still a trace of worry in his eyes as he said to Hermit Wuzhan, "Hermit, although this plan is brilliant, Grandma Silverflower is still around. If she interferes, it will be troublesome." When Grandma Silverflower was mentioned, Hermit Wuzhan's heart trembled. Then, his old face returned to normal as he said to Shui Tianqiu, "Sect Master, you don't have to worry. We aren't going to war with them. Grandma Silverflower naturally, she won't interfere. As long as we succeed, the World Society, the entire Dark Forest, sect, and Grandma Silverflower will naturally not. As long as we succeed, the World Society, hee. Let's do as the Mountain Man says. I'll destroy the world society to vent my anger. Shui Tianqiu sneered. This plan was flawless. Not long after, he would be able to control the entire dark forest. The only regret was that Du Xiaofu had died early. It was a pity that he had so many treasures on him. Not being able to kill him personally was not enough to appease the hatred in his heart. Dark and dark, dark city. Dark was dark, dark the dark. Of sin, sin, ss to intess to a aza sound in a. Through the door, one could see a young lady standing in front of an old man who looked to be in his 60s. The old man wore a long robe and had a thin face. His eyebrows were long and thin, emitting a chilling aura. His small eyes were fluctuating with radiance, giving one the impression that he had a pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks. At this moment, he was looking at the young lady's clean body. You are truly a good disciple of Master. The pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man let out a lewd laugh and immediately pulled the lady into his embrace. The woman took the opportunity to lie in the old man's arms. Her eyes were filled with charm as she took the opportunity to grab the old man's thing that had long since become vigorous. Her face was flushed with intoxication as she said, Master is bullying your disciple again. The old man let out a lewd laugh and said, When did Master bully you? Look at how tender your skin is. I can't bear to bully you. As soon as he said that, the old man touched her body. His hands were full as he needed and pinched. The lady smiled and looked at the old man in a flirtatious manner. Master, be gentler. You are hurting me. Creak. At this moment, the door opened with a creak and a thin old man walked in. It was Mountain Man Wuzhen. He looked at the scene in the room and did not seem to find it strange. He said to the pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man, Things are about done. Shui Tianqiu has agreed to the plan. SK. The pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man was not surprised by the appearance of Mountain Man Wuzhen. Hearing this, he immediately revealed a cold smile and said, It seems that it will not be long before the entire dark forest will be ours. After saying that, the pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man paused for a moment. He looked at Mountain Man Wuzhen and asked, How should we deal with Shui Tianqiu when the time comes? He has some strength and is not easy to deal with. It is likely that it will not be his turn at that time. If Shui Tianqiu is tactful, I will naturally spare his life. If he is not, I will have no choice but to use some special methods. I will leave him to you to deal with. Hermit Wuzhen laughed sinisterly. His eyes were fixed on the clean lady as he spoke. Just as well. When the time comes, we will naturally have a way to deal with him. The pointy mouth and monkey-like cheeks old man looked at Mountain Man Wuzhen and said with a filthy smile, Do you want to join us? Of course. A smile appeared on Mountain Man Wuzhen's aged face. Night enveloped the courtyard. Soon, the sound of debauchery continued. In the misty space, time seemed to have lost its meaning. After an unknown period of time, the aura on Du Xiaofu's body grew denser and denser. It gradually accumulated and finally climbed to the peak. Accompanied by the flickering of lightning, his aura surged like a volcano that was about to erupt. Boom! Finally, the volcano-like aura surged, causing the entire misty space to tremble. In an instant, a terrifying aura rippled out from Du Xiaofu's body and spread across the misty space. Suddenly, the thunder and lightning flames on Du Xiaofu's naked body also suddenly expanded and then spread in all directions. Finally, with the power of lightning, it dazzled the magical light net on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body, and countless ancient and majestic talisman mysterious patterns spread out. Screech, at the same time, an astonishing golden-winged rock image condensed on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. The image seemed to have been injected with life. It spread its wings and soared into the sky, suppressing space in a domineering and ferocious manner. Walala! At this moment, a strange change appeared on Du Xiaofu's body. The golden-winged rock image seemed to be able to connect with the mysterious light. As it flapped its wings, it faintly carried lightning. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's eyes were still tightly shut. His body was wrapped in a dazzling golden light, and his aura was soaring. The golden-winged rock image on his body was unpredictable. It flapped its wings and soared into the sky one moment, and looked down on all living things the next. A terrifying pressure swept out and was extremely shocking. In just a moment, a bright light began to spread on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. There was a vigorous and domineering aura that spread out like a tide. Bang! After a slight muffled sound, the aura on Du Xiaofu's body rose to the peak. It was as if he had jumped and suddenly entered another level. A mysterious aura of the martial marquis level swept across the sky forcefully and domineeringly. At the same time, Du Xiaofu, who was floating in the air, suddenly opened his tightly shut eyes. Two bright golden lights burst out from his eyes that had been closed for a long time. Chi-chi. Within the golden talisman runes, there was a faint flicker of lightning. Then, Du Xiaofu's naked body also floated in the air as he sat cross-legged in this misty space. A vigorous and domineering aura continued to spread out. "You've finally woken up." At this moment, a voice resounded in this misty space and landed in Du Xiaofu's ears. Suddenly, in Du Xiaofu's eyes that had just opened, an unusual fluctuation appeared within the golden light, and then he closed them again. Swish! His mind rippled. In a daze, Du Xiaofu felt his mind appear in an ancient and boundless space. This space was extremely mysterious. The surrounding multicolored light was misty, and the surroundings were blurry. The aura in this space also made Du Xiaofu feel a sense of déjà vu. "It's good that you're awake. You've finally made it." A leisurely voice sounded out. Then, a figure appeared in this space filled with multicolored light. His black hair draped over his shoulders, and his aura was calm. "Sir, why are you here? Where is this?" Du Xiaofu was astonished. As he spied, he was surprised to recognize that this person was actually the middle-aged man who often dozed off on the huge rock outside the heavenly martial talisman realm. When he first entered the heavenly martial talisman realm, it was this person who explained to him in detail everything about the heavenly martial talisman realm. Du Xiaofu naturally would not forget. "This is the deepest part of the heavenly martial talisman realm that you speak of. I was born here, so I will naturally be here. However, the me you see now is in your Naiwan Palace's spirit soul. I won't be able to hold on for much longer. Listen to me carefully and don't interrupt." The middle-aged man's figure was rather illusory at this moment, and he continued to speak in this space. "The heavenly martial talisman realm that you call is actually called the desolate ancient space, and I am the soul of the space that was born in the desolate ancient space. I am similar to an artifact spirit, but an artifact spirit cannot be compared to me. Back then, when the world suffered a great calamity, countless experts of the world fell, countless ancient creatures suffered calamity, and the desolate ancient space was split into two. Finally, the fresh flower ranking has been refreshed. Now, brothers, we can ruthlessly smash the flowers." Chapter 535. The current heaven martial talisman realm only occupies an extremely small portion of the original desolate space. It is far from being comparable to when it was at its strongest. During the great calamity of the world, I was also heavily injured. Because the desolate space has already been split into two, the current heaven martial talisman realm is only a small portion of what it used to be. As a result, it is impossible for me to recover. For countless years, I have been supporting the operation of the heaven martial talisman realm and have been constantly exhausting myself. In addition, when the Heaven Martial Academy was destroyed, there was a rather strong person who came to ambush me. The aura on that person's body made me feel the aura of the great calamity. Although the origin of that ambusher was not too strong, he was somewhat related to those experts. However, that fellow did not know the true origin of the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. He also thought that I was only an artifact spirit and wanted to control me. In the end, he was heavily injured by me and hastily fled. However, with my exhaustion, I am unable to support the desolate space anymore. I'm afraid that I won't be able to hold on for much longer." His voice paused for a moment. Then the middle-aged man continued to speak in this space. "After I dissipate, the desolate space will have no master. I chose you so that you can fuse with the desolate space and control it. When I dissipate, I will return to my original state and leave behind the soul seed in this desolate space. After you fuse with the soul seed, you will be able to control the desolate space. After you completely fuse with the desolate space and control it, you will have to find another desolate space. Only by obtaining another desolate space will you be able to unleash the true power of the desolate space. At that time, it will be enough for you to become one of the strongest experts in the world. However, even if you are able to find another desolate space in the future, you have to be careful. That desolate space is far, far larger than the desolate space you are in right now. Although I am the true soul of the desolate space, with the desolate space's use, it is enough to create a new soul of the desolate space. When it becomes strong, it will definitely look for you. Otherwise, its Tao will not be complete, and it will not be able to step into the strongest realm. As for you, I'm afraid that your strength is far from enough to face it. You have to be careful. Do not let the soul of the desolate space devour you. Also, remember that you cannot expose the desolate space to the outside. In the past few years, the desolate space has been disguised as the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. Even if there were people who wanted to pry, they were all deceived by me. If people know that the desolate space is in your body, the desolate realm, the desolate space there is the Heaven Martial Talisman realm. All right, you can ask me questions now. You can ask 3 questions. If you ask more, I'm afraid I won't have the energy to answer you. 2 was in was to 2's was it? Was? Although Du Xiaofu did not say anything when he heard all of this, his mind was intensely fluctuating. There were too many questions in his mind. So the Heaven Martial symbol stage was actually called the Ancient Desolate Space, and it was only an extremely small part of the complete Ancient Desolate Space. That middle-aged man looked no different from an ordinary person. Even Zhang Xian couldn't tell what was different about him. Who would have thought that he was the soul of the desolate space? How long had the desolate space existed? What was the complete desolate space like? What was the relationship between the desolate space and Tianwu Academy? According to the soul of the desolate space, during the calamity of the world, countless experts had fallen. Countless living beings had suffered the calamity, and the desolate space had been split into 2. What kind of calamity was that? There were too many questions and puzzles, causing Du Xiaofu to be shocked. Mister, what kind of existence is the desolate space? There were too many questions in his mind. After sorting out his thoughts, Du Xiaofu asked the middle-aged man. The desolate space can be said to be a semi-virtual world. Everything that you need to comprehend is within it. Talisman formations, secret arts, beast energy, everything exists. However, the desolate space you're in now is only a small part of it. Resources are scarce and the level of the desolate space isn't high. If you're able to control the complete desolate space and comprehend everything within it, you'll be able to become one of the strongest experts in the world. The middle-aged man said to Du Xiaofu, even though the desolate space you're in now is only a small part of it, as long as you're able to control the desolate space, you'll be able to make use of everything within it. The beast energy, secret arts, and talisman formations within it will all be under your control. If you were to trap an enemy within the desolate space, they would be at your mercy. You'll slowly discover the profoundness and profundity of the desolate space once you're able to control it. Du Xiaofu was astonished by the middle-aged man's words. After which, he asked the middle-aged man, Mister, what's the relationship between the desolate space and Tianwu Academy? The owner of the desolate space is the first principal of Tianwu Academy. You could say that he's my master. Countless years ago, he was the one who founded Tianwu Academy in this desolate land, shocking the entire continent. Over the years, Tianwu Academy has only had a vice principal and not a principal. It's also because of me that I can sense that he's still in this world. It's just that he's unable to extricate himself from the calamity. The middle-aged man said to Du Xiaofu, the reason why I chose you to fuse with the desolate space is because I hope that you'll be able to fuse with the complete desolate space one day. At that time, you'll become an omnipotent expert and have the opportunity to help my master escape from the calamity. I can only leave all of this to you. Over the years, I've been unable to recover the desolate space even if I wanted to. Over the years, I've been choosing those who have the potential to become omnipotent experts. Over the years, There have been many talented individuals in Tianwu Academy, and there are quite a few of them who have the potential to become experts. One of them is called Du Tingxian, your father. However, just as I was about to pick him, that lad never returned to the academy again. There are also a few people with extremely high aptitudes. I remember that one of them is called Ao Tong, and she should be your mother. The most recent one is Qi Shi, but their backgrounds are too unusual for me to trust, so I can only choose you. Du Xiaofu's heart trembled. He didn't expect Tianwu Academy to have such secrets. Most likely, even Grand Elder Qing Yu was unaware of these secrets. After calming himself down, Du Xiaofu continued asking, "Mister, where is the other half of the desolate space now?" The middle-aged man shook his head and replied, "I don't know either. I'm too weak after the calamity, and I'm unable to sense the existence of the other half of the desolate space. Perhaps a new soul of space has been born in the desolate space, and it's afraid that I'll devour it while it's still weak." "Mister, Tianwu Academy is facing a calamity. Why didn't you lend a helping hand? Perhaps you might have been able to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity and save countless students and elders." Du Xiaofu asked. He was still grieving when he recalled the bloody scene. This calamity is incomparable to the calamity of the world back then. Back then, countless experts of Tianwu Academy fell, and countless life forms perished. Many experts fell, and the world was filled with mourning. That was the true calamity. Even though I have a way to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity, what's the use of it? If I were to save Tianwu Academy from this calamity, it would probably bring about the true calamity of Tianwu Academy's destruction. At that time, it would be hard for us to escape from this calamity. All right, I've already answered your fourth question, and I don't have any strength left. Remember, place your soul imprint on my soul seed and fuse it with the desolate space. Also, I've already controlled the flow of time here. You've been in here for 2.5 years, but only 3 months have passed in the outside world. Thus, you can rest assured and fuse with the desolate space here. Once you've fused with the desolate space, you'll be able to control its effects as well. It will be of great help to your cultivation in the future. Even though the calamity has passed, it will return one day. Whether it's a blessing or a calamity, it will depend on you. After the middle-aged man finished his words, his body finally dissipated, turning into talisman inscriptions. Amidst the resplendent glow, a small mysterious ball of light was formed in the air. This small mysterious ball of light was like a small star spinning in the sky. An ancient aura emanated from it, reminiscent of the primordial chaos. After a moment of silence, the space where Du Xiaofu's consciousness was located began to dissipate, and everything gradually returned to normal. It was from the Naiwan Palace in Du Xiaofu's mind. Ripples in space and waves of invisible mental energy could be felt. Is this the soul seed? Let's begin. Du Xiaofu began to control his mental energy to wrap around the star-like soul seed. According to the space spirit's instructions, he had to place a soul imprint on the soul seed. Only then could he fuse with the desolate space. According to the space spirit, the flow of time in this space had been accelerated by 10 times, just like half a year after the Tianwu conference. With time accelerated by 10 times, Du Xiaofu was not worried about the flow of time in the outside world. In the misty space of the desolate space, Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged with his eyes closed. The mysterious light net on his body continued to release lightning. Buzz buzz. Waves of pure lightning energy continued to flow into Du Xiaofu's body, causing the powerful and domineering aura in Du Xiaofu's body to continue to rise. However, with this increase in aura, Du Xiaofu's current level of cultivation would require a little more time to advance. Time continued to pass, and the quiet space fell into silence once more. It's the third night watch again. Xiao Yu is still writing. Thank you, Brother Sunny Phantom Monarch, for your generous reward. Thank you. Chapter 536. Dark City. 3 months after Tianwu Academy was razed to the ground, a shocking piece of news spread throughout the city. The news stated that the Black Fiend sect had invited the other 3 major forces, 1 pavilion, 1 fort, and 2 sects, to form an alliance in 3 days. The moment the news spread, the entire Dark City was shaken. The alliance of the 4 major forces was extraordinary to the entire Dark Forest. Could it be that the four major forces are under pressure after Tianwu Academy was destroyed? Is that why they want to form an alliance? That might not be the case. It might be that the four major forces want to form an alliance to truly control the entire Dark Forest. That might not be the case. The alliance of the four major forces was initiated by the Black Fiend sect. I'm afraid that the Black Fiend sect wants to become the leader of the four major forces and become the leader of the alliance. Although the Mu family fort, the Myriad Clouds Pavilion, and the Twin Hatred sect have agreed to the Black Killing sect's invitation to form an alliance, I'm afraid that the alliance will be successful in the end. Currently, it's still unknown. That's true. Even if the four major forces really form an alliance, the Black Fiend sect won't be the leader. No one will be controlled for free. I'm afraid it'll be difficult for the four major forces to form an alliance this time. When the news spread, the entire Dark City was in an uproar. Everyone was waiting for the result in 3 days. Chaos Demon City. After 3 months, the news of the World Society's president, Du Xiaofu's death spread. It caused a commotion among the lower and middle levels of the World Society, which had just stabilized recently. Some of them were in a state of panic. Not long ago, a vice president called Du Yunlong had appeared. It was rumored that he was the president's second brother. This caused a commotion among the lower and middle levels of the World Society. Later on, it was rumored that the vice president, Du Yunlong, had defeated a Martial Marquis Hall Master in one move. This had caused a shock to the lower and middle levels of the World Society. Furthermore, with the Medicine King presiding over the World Society, there weren't many problems in the World Society. After Du Xiaofu's suppression and elimination, many people still had lingering fears and didn't dare to act rashly. Moreover, with Yi Piaoling, Hua Fankong, Xiao Wenqing, Bai Qi, and the others around, the World Club was still relatively peaceful. At dusk, above the mountains, the sun was setting in the west. The setting sun slowly penetrated the thin layer of clouds, and the sunset glow spread in all directions, covering half of the sky. Layer by layer, it gradually faded until it became grayish-white. The curtain of night enveloped the sky and the entire Chaos Demon City. One pavilion, one castle, 2 sects, 4 major powers forming an alliance. I'm afraid their motives aren't simple. Within the World Society, in a quiet courtyard, Li Shui was holding a message jade slip in her hand. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and her delicate face was slightly solemn. Dark City. 3 days later, under the attention of almost the entire Dark Forest, the leaders of the 4 major forces gathered in a building outside the 4 major forces to discuss the matter of forming an alliance. Mu Mingqing, Hen Heaven, Hen Earth, Third Fatty Wan, Shui Tianqiu, and the other experts of the 4 major forces appeared one after another. On this day, the entire city was filled with anticipation. However, the location where the 4 great powers were having their discussion was a place where they were prepared for battle. Without a doubt, the other 3 major powers didn't believe the Black Fiend sect at all. They were all prepared. Boom. However, during this discussion, a terrifying aura suddenly spread out, and the entire space fell into chaos and distortion. What's going on? It's a trap. The experts of the other 3 major powers were shocked. Their auras surged, and they clashed with weapons. Everyone, relax. It's just a small talisman array set up by our sect. If someone is spying on it, don't worry. Nothing will happen. Just as the people of the other 3 major powers were at a loss and were about to join forces to deal with the Black Fiend sect, an elder of the Black Fiend sect suddenly came to inform them with concern that the talisman array was set up to guard against spies. Many people of the other 3 major powers were nervous. Sure enough, not long after, the terrifying talisman array really disappeared. After that, news spread from Dark City. 1 pavilion, 1 castle, 2 sects, and the 4 major powers had formed an alliance. The Black Fiend sect master, Shui Tianqiu, had become the leader of the Dark Alliance. When this news spread, it immediately exceeded the expectations of many people, causing them to be taken aback. The next day, the 1 pavilion, 1 castle, and 2 sects formed an alliance. Early in the morning, the sun rose from the east, and the morning glow filled the sky, enveloping Chaos Demon City. In the World Society's main hall, There were only a few higher-ups of the World Society present. Li Shui, Chao Yu, Yi Piaoling, Hua Fankong, Bai Qi, Xiaowenqing, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others were all present. The Medicine King sat on the seat of honor, his face slightly pale. In this main hall, there were two newcomers at this moment. One of the two was a young man in a cloud robe, with shoulder-length black hair that was not tied up. He had a dignified appearance. The cloud robe and black hair complemented his muscular body. On his handsome face, his gaze was extremely deep and sharp. The other person was a woman about the same age. Her figure was graceful, and her black hair was as smooth as a waterfall. Her black hair was loosely tied up, and her eyes were ethereal. Her face was youthful, and there was an indescribable charm to it. This man and woman were the eldest son of the younger generation of the Stone City's Du family, Du Xiaoman, and the second son, Du Yunlong. After Du Yunlong and Du Xiaoman arrived at Chaos Demon City, they immediately entered the World Society. Du Xiaofu had disappeared, and as the vice president, Du Yunlong naturally took over the situation. With the support of the Medicine King, Eagle King, and Gong Dao, as well as Hua Fankong, Xiaowenqing, and Du Xiaofu's trusted aides, Du Yunlong's position as the vice president was not much of a problem. However, Du Yunlong was a newcomer. If he wanted to completely convince everyone, it would naturally take some time. At this moment, everyone in the main hall was seated, and their expressions were rather solemn. Last night, the World Society received a mysterious message jade slip. It said that the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects had formed an alliance. Mountain Man Wuzhen, who had walked out of the World Society, had become the vice leader of the Black Fiend sect. There was also a Five Poisons Mountain Man, who had become a consecrator of the Black Fiend sect. Consecrator, vice president, according to the information we received from the jade slip, the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have officially formed an alliance. Shui Tianqiu has successfully become the alliance leader of the alliance, and Mountain Man Wuzhen has also joined the Black Fiend sect. Their alliance is probably extremely disadvantageous to our world society. In the main hall, Li Shui's beautiful brows were slightly furrowed. This was the matter she was most worried about these past few days. If the news is true, after the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have formed an alliance, their first target is probably our world society. Mountain Man Wuzhen has actually joined the Black Fiend sect, and there's also the Five Poisons Mountain Man. The alliance of the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects is definitely not normal. The Medicine King's expression was slightly serious. The alliance of the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects and Shui Tianqiu of the Black Fiend sect had become the alliance leader naturally had many problems. From his experience, something must have happened in between. Medicine King, what is the background of the Five Poisons Mountain Man? The Eagle King Gong Dao turned to the side and asked the Medicine King Yi Wuming. At this moment, his right arm was covered by his long sleeve, and his face was still pale, as if he had not recovered from his previous heavy injury. The Medicine King frowned and said, "The Five Poisons Mountain Man is an old man who has been famous for a long time. He is a medicine talisman master among spiritual talisman masters, but he cultivates the poison soul cultivation method. His entire body is covered in poison, and his personality is extremely cruel. Many people want to kill him, but they are wary of the poison all over his body. He is also extremely powerful, so he has always been free and unfettered. It is said that he has always been in the central province, but who would have thought that he would come to a remote place like the Dark Forest? Medicine King, Eagle King, this junior has just arrived and is not too clear about the situation in the Dark Forest. Third brother has yet to receive any news about the alliance between the one pavilion, one castle, two sects, and the four great powers. I hope the two of you can make a decision." Du Yunlong stood up and cupped his fists towards the Medicine King and the Medicine King. Although he was the vice president of the World Society, he knew that the Medicine King and the Eagle King were both old members of the World Society. He was full of respect in front of the Medicine King and the Eagle King, especially when he returned to the Stone City and learned that his uncle was saved by the Medicine King. He was even more grateful. Vice President is too polite. The Medicine King and the Eagle King indicated that Du Yunlong did not need to be so polite. Then, The Medicine King's eyes moved slightly as he looked at the people in the hall and said, "Although the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects have already formed an alliance, and with the addition of Wuzhen Mountain and Five Poisons Mountain, there are many experts and their strength has increased greatly. However, it is not that we do not have the strength to resist. The trump cards in our hands have not reached the point where we cannot resist the four great powers." But, at the end of his words, the Medicine King lightly sighed and said, "But little Qing has been in seclusion all this time. If Du Shaoqing was here, we would not have to worry about the four great powers at all. It would be even better if he was here. Unfortunately, that fellow was too arrogant, and now, Senior Medicine King, Senior Eagle King, did you personally witness Third Brother's death?" In the hall, Du Xiaoman asked the Medicine King and the Eagle King. Her pitch-black eyes were as clear as a stream, and her gaze was fluctuating. No, no one saw it with their own eyes. The Medicine King shook his head. He had recalled that scene countless times. Although Du Xiaofu's traces had disappeared, within that dazzling light, no one had personally witnessed his death. If no one saw it with their own eyes, then I believe Third Brother will definitely be fine. Perhaps Third Brother will suddenly return not long after. Hearing this, Du Xiaoman's eyes became resolute. From the Stone City Du family, to the Dark Forest, to Tianwu Academy, to the Stone Dragon Empire's Dragon City, her third brother had created one inconceivable miracle after another. This time, she also believed that her third brother would definitely be fine and return safely. I don't know why, but I also believe that he will be fine. Perhaps he will return soon. In the hall, Yi Piaoling, who had always been a man of few words, spoke up. His tone was indifferent, but his eyes were filled with an extremely inexplicable certainty. "I also believe it," Li Shui softly said. Her eyes moved slightly, and her graceful body seemed to be silently enchanting. Today's update ends. Tomorrow, I will continue to work hard and ask for more flowers. Thank you. Chapter 537. There were many discussions in the Dark Forest. The formation of the Dark Alliance by the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects shocked everyone. Some of the smaller factions were even more worried. In the past, the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects kept each other in check. They were still able to survive in the cracks. However, now that the one pavilion, one castle, and two sects had formed an alliance, the smaller factions would no longer have a place to stay. The entire Dark Forest would gradually be under the control of the Dark Alliance. In the misty space, Du Xiaofu floated in midair and sat cross-legged. Lightning flashed around his body like silver snakes. The lightning energy overflowed continuously. Du Xiaofu's eyes were tightly shut. His aura kept rising. At this moment, in his mind's Naiwen Palace, he was immersed in another strange state. In Du Xiaofu's mind's Naiwen Palace, the spiritual energy seemed to be invisible, but it really existed. It was like countless threads of energy floating around. The spiritual energy was gentle and pure. It rippled and kept wrapping around the star-like ball of energy in his mind's Naiwen Palace. Waves of invisible spiritual energy condensed into lines of mysterious runes and started to flow into the ball of energy. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was setting up the spiritual imprint. This setting up was very complicated. However, the spiritual seed left in the ancient barren space was already in its initial state. It was like a newborn baby. It was extremely pure. Hence, to Du Xiaofu, other than needing some time and complicated process, there was not much danger. Of course, even though there wasn't much danger, it didn't mean that there was no danger at all. Anything related to the spirit wouldn't be easy. To a certain extent, the spiritual seed was definitely the most fragile and untouchable part of a person. If any accident happened, the consequences would be unbearable. Hence, at this moment, Du Xiaofu did not dare to be careless. He focused all his attention on setting up the spiritual imprint. Inside his Naiwen Palace, Du Xiaofu could feel that the ancient, desolate space soul seed glowing sphere, which was rotating like a small star, was continuously emitting rich spiritual energy. This kind of energy caused Du Xiaofu's mental spirit to feel a kind of warmth. After a long process, Du Xiaofu's entire mud pill palace began to vibrate as a formless spiritual energy entered the barren ancient space soul seed. Chi. At this moment, the space spirit seed that was rotating like a small star also trembled slightly. In an instant, a strange energy spread out and released a dazzling, gentle, and pure light in the Niwen Palace. It lit up the entire Niwen Palace. Boom! Although this light was gentle and pure, its aura was ancient and domineering, vigorous and surging. This ancient, domineering, and vigorous energy was released from the Niwen Palace. It immediately caused Du Xiaofu's mind to tremble. Then, it was as if a huge reservoir had opened its gate and poured a torrent of water into a small river. It caused Du Xiaofu's Niwen Palace to swell painfully. It was as if his Niwen Palace was about to explode. Pfft, this was the Niwen Palace. The spiritual seed was the most fragile and untouchable part of the Niwen Palace. With such a torrent of energy pouring down, Du Xiaofu could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. The flashing lightning around Du Xiaofu's body also suddenly stopped and dimmed for a moment. However, it gradually recovered. Within the Niwen Palace in his mind, Du Xiaofu was feeling excruciating pain. The immense energy that was spreading out from the soul seed in the ancient desolate space was also a kind of spiritual existence. At this moment, it wanted to fuse with Du Xiaofu. Du Xiaofu had placed a spiritual imprint in the space spirit seed. The two of them were like one. At this moment, the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed was pouring down. If this domineering and vigorous spiritual energy from the space spirit seed completely occupied the Niwen Palace in his mind, he would not be the one controlling the space spirit in the future. Instead, the space spirit would control him and he would become a walking corpse. Not good. Under such a change, Du Xiaofu could not help but gasp in the depths of his soul. The space spirit did not tell him this. If the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed occupied his Niwen Palace, he would be in trouble. Buzz. Just as Du Xiaofu was feeling anxious, the sound of wind and thunder suddenly resounded in his mind's Niwen Palace, causing him to tremble. Walala. After that, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that in his Niwen Palace, there was suddenly a dazzling radiance, following which there were mysterious runes flashing and turning into a series of unfamiliar characters. When these characters appeared, they immediately released an ancient radiance. It was like a divine radiance that shone in the Niwen Palace. Du Xiaofu recognized these unfamiliar characters. They were the mysterious, incomplete cultivation method's mnemonic chant. At this moment, these unfamiliar characters were like dazzling ancient runes. They bloomed in the Niwen Palace in his mind like fireworks. As the radiance bloomed in the Niwen Palace, it enveloped the spiritual energy from the space spirit seed. It was as if the spiritual energy was going to devour it. Although the spiritual energy on the ancient, desolate space soul seed was gentle and pure, just like a newborn baby, its ancient and overbearing aura was able to directly resist the mysterious Qi method chant. From this, it could be seen that if the space spirit seed was originally the middle-aged man and had its own will, the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique would not be able to envelop the space spirit seed. At this moment, when the two energies collided, Du Xiaofu felt an unprecedented swelling pain in his mind. It was as if his mind was about to explode. Could it be that this mysterious cultivation technique is able to refine spiritual energy? Du Xiaofu suddenly thought of something. He immediately activated the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique and recited the unfamiliar characters in his mind. Walala. As he activated the mysterious cultivation technique, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel that the unfamiliar characters seemed to be alive. They started to become more powerful. The huge amount of soul energy poured out from the ancient barren space soul seed was immediately refined by the mysterious cultivation method and turned into the soul energy that he needed. As the mysterious incomplete cultivation technique was activated, the space spirit seed trembled slightly. The pure, gentle, ancient, and domineering spiritual energy immediately spread out and poured into Du Xiaofu's mind. Finally, under Du Xiaofu's refinement, the spiritual energy was continuously turned into spiritual energy for Du Xiaofu. The spiritual energy that poured out from the space spirit seed was different. It was extraordinary and could not be compared to ordinary spiritual energy. It made Du Xiaofu feel that his soul was immersed in a gentle and warm light. It was as if he was a fetus in his mother's womb. Walala, the pure, ancient, and domineering spiritual energy poured out from the space spirit seed, creating waves of sound. Spiritual energy was continuously poured into Du Xiaofu's Naiwan palace. As the vast spiritual energy poured out, Du Xiaofu felt that the spiritual energy in his Naiwan palace could not be compared to the spiritual energy in the space spirit seed. The spiritual energy in the space spirit seed was much more powerful. Du Xiaofu had placed his soul imprint in the ancient barren space soul seed. Therefore, it was easy for him to refine it. The two spiritual energies did not confront each other at all. They merged easily. While Du Xiaofu was frantically refining the spiritual energy that poured out from the soul seed in the ancient, desolate space, a layer of white divine light was gradually wrapped around the silver snake-like lightning glow on the surface of Du Xiaofu's body. An ancient aura continued to ripple. Walala, the spiritual energy in the space spirit seed was being refined by Du Xiaofu. The lightning around Du Xiaofu's body was also covered. The white divine light around his body formed circles of invisible waves in the misty space. With Du Xiaofu as the center, it slowly spread out. The white divine light was dazzling and ancient. It set off Du Xiaofu's naked body, making him look like a pure son of God. He was extremely mysterious and breathtaking. However, no one could touch this space at this moment. Otherwise, they would definitely be dumbfounded. At this moment, the ancient and domineering aura that emanated from Du Xiaofu's clone was terrifying. It was enough to cause everyone to tremble violently. It caused their minds to tremble and their souls to prostrate before it. Time passed slowly. The white divine light on Du Xiaofu's body became more and more dazzling. The ancient and domineering aura also became more and more intense. However, the space spirit seed in the space spirit seed was becoming smaller and smaller. Its aura also became weaker and weaker. Although the speed at which the energy dissipated was extremely slow for a desolate space soul seed, it was only a matter of time before it would be completely refined. Du Xiaofu was now immersed in the sea of spiritual energy. He was unaware of everything else. Within the spiritual energy fluctuation in Du Xiaofu's mind, a vigorous fluctuation was becoming more and more intense. It was quietly gathering. His spiritual energy was constantly rising. It was rising at an extremely terrifying rate. At this moment, even if the king of medicine were here to see Du Xiaofu's spiritual energy rising at such a terrifying speed, he would be so shocked that his mouth would dry up and he would swallow his saliva. This was simply abnormal. It was extremely difficult for other talisman masters to cultivate their spiritual energy. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's spiritual energy was rising at a speed as if it was flying. Chapter 538. Dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the setting sun was as red as blood. Dark City, Black Fiend Sect. Inside the main hall, Shui Tianqiu looked at the many experts of the Black Fiend Sect and said in a deep voice, "All elders and protectors, listen up. Inform the disciples of the Black Fiend Sect to head to Chaos Demon City immediately. 5 days later, the Dark Alliance's million-strong army will wipe out the world society in Chaos Demon City." Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, multiple armies were moving around inside and outside the Dark City. Demonic beast mounts flapped their wings and neighed. Their auras surged and filled the sky. Finally, they set off in all directions. Their target was the Chaos Demon City in the Dark Forest. The Dark Alliance gathered a million-strong elite army and headed to Chaos Demon City. This shocked the entire Dark City. Everyone knew that the million-strong elite army of the Dark Alliance was heading to Chaos Demon City to deal with the demonic beast faction that had been occupying the Chaos Demon Cliff. But before this, everyone knew that the world society in Chaos Demon City would be the first to be wiped out by the Dark Alliance. The president of the world society, Du Xiaofu, had fallen in Tianwu Academy. He had an irreconcilable feud with the leader of the Black Fiend Sect and the leader of the Dark Alliance, Shui Tianqiu. Although the world society was powerful now, it was rumored that the Eagle King's Gong Saber had yet to recover from his injuries. The Medicine King was injured, and Du Xiaofu had fallen. The world society didn't have any foundation. Could they resist the dark alliance formed by the four major forces? In an instant, the news spread and the entire dark forest paid attention to it. A huge battle enveloped Chaos Demon City. Just as the entire dark city was in an uproar, in the small alley outside the Mu family fort, business was slow. A 12-year-old boy was practicing writing on the table. Every stroke of the little boy's writing was done with great care. He wrote with great concentration, and every stroke of his writing was filled with vigor and vigor. If some old masters saw this, they would probably be overjoyed. The little boy's calligraphy skills were enough to be called a calligraphy master. How could they not be shocked? Beside the tea stall, the silver-haired old lady looked into the sky. Then, under the setting sun, she continued to arrange the tea leaves in her hands. Under the setting sun, the tea stall was quiet, one old and one young. Looking at them, one could calm one's mind and sweep away the restlessness in one's heart. Within the misty space, the dazzling white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body rippled with an ancient aura, and an astonishing pressure spread out with a whistling sound. Boom! Suddenly, Du Xiaoyao's five-finger mountain, which had been floating in the blurry space, trembled and expanded. After that, in a short period of time, an endless amount of dazzling light erupted from the top of the five-finger mountain like a waterfall. The mysterious symbols were dazzling, like a sun in the sky. Its might caused the entire space to tremble violently, as if it wanted to suppress and destroy this blurry space. Halala! The mysterious runes on the enormous five-finger mountain wriggled, and a powerful life force began to erupt. Then, the five-finger mountain's phantom image transformed into a huge golden ape. Oh! The golden ape roared and its body was wrapped in multicolored light. The mysterious runes evolved and communicated with the heavens and the earth. It gave people the feeling of the beginning of the world and the beginning of all things. The runes that filled the sky constantly surged into its body, causing the surrounding space to ripple violently. When everything calmed down, the golden ape that seemed to be able to dominate and suppress everything shrank. The mysterious runes on the runes converged and turned into a small monkey the size of a baby. There was a faint golden mark between its eyebrows that flickered like a flame, adding to its mysteriousness. Then, it slowly converged, leaving behind a faint imprint that looked like the five-finger mountain. It was Du Xiaoyao's redbone horse monkey body. Chi, Du Xiaoyao seemed to have sensed something when her aura converged. Her lively eyes immediately focused on Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged naked. Her long and dense eyelashes slightly curled up. Her bright and deep pale golden eyes rippled with astonishment. At this moment, the white divine light around Du Xiaofu's body became more and more dazzling. The domineering and ancient aura reached its peak. Du Xiaofu, who was immersed in the Naiwen Palace in his mind, did not notice that the soul seed in the desolate space that he had placed a soul imprint on was originally the size of 2 fists. But at this moment, it was only the size of the tip of a little finger. The aura of the soul seed in the desolate space became weaker and weaker. All the energy had been refined by Du Xiaofu and taken for himself by activating some incomplete technique. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's spiritual soul energy had reached a terrifying level. It was whistling and fluctuating, and the light was dazzling. Under the effects of the incomplete mysterious technique, Du Xiaofu's spiritual soul energy in his Naiwen Palace was like a ferocious beast, devouring and fusing with the last of the pure and ancient soul energy. It also devoured and fused with the last of the soul seed in the desolate space. Boom! As the last trace of spiritual energy was swallowed by the ancient, desolate space spirit seed, the spirit seed completely disappeared. Within Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, a glaring and intense light immediately spread. An ancient and overbearing formless ripple spread out from the white divine light within Du Xiaofu's body in all directions like a storm. In his Naiwen Palace, Du Xiaofu's terrifying aura continued to rise. Suddenly, it reached an absolutely terrifying level. Then, in Du Xiaofu's Naiwen Palace, the terrifying spiritual soul energy in his Naiwen Palace flashed and gathered together. Like a spatial wave, it condensed into a dazzling ball of light. The ball of light rotated like a small star. It wrapped around the spiritual soul energy and emitted an ancient and domineering aura. However, this ball of light was not the original soul seed in the desolate space. It was condensed from Du Xiaofu's Niwen Palace. Spiritual soul energy condensed and took shape. This was the symbol of a 6-star spiritual talisman master. Only a 6-star spiritual talisman master's spiritual soul energy in his Niwen Palace could reach such a level. Now, Du Xiaofu had unknowingly devoured the soul seed in the desolate space and merged it with himself. He had unknowingly become a 6-star spiritual talisman master. At this moment, if there were other 6-star spiritual talisman masters who could see the situation in Du Xiaofu's Niwen Palace, they would be shocked. The area of Du Xiaofu's Niwen Palace was many times larger than the Niwen Palace of an ordinary 6-star spiritual talisman master. The ancient and domineering aura made it impossible for one's soul to resist the pressure from the desolate space. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's spiritual soul condensed in his Niwen Palace. After his soul took shape, the soul light ball that was like a small star was completely different from that of other 6-star spiritual talisman masters. The soul light ball of an ordinary 6-star spiritual talisman master was the size of an infant's fist. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's spiritual soul light ball was the size of an adult's fist. The soul light ball was covered with dazzling talisman patterns. This was something that other 6-star spiritual talisman masters did not possess. Crackle. At this moment, as Du Xiaofu stepped into the 6-star spiritual talisman master realm, the surrounding misty space trembled. Within the white divine light, pure lightning shuttled back and forth, wreaking havoc like wild thunder dancing. Rumble. The space trembled and energy fluctuated. At this moment, the surging energy of heaven and earth gathered in the space, faintly causing the space to carry the sound of thunder. Large amounts of lightning scuttled out like silver snakes. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was overflowing with lightning energy. The martial aura outside of the spiritual talisman master realm was once again filled to the brim. Bang! Following a muffled sound of energy from within the spirit watchtower, a terrifying and domineering aura surged like a volcano and quietly spread out like a storm. In a split second, silver snakes and golden rays shuttled back and forth. The shadow of a golden-winged rock flapped its wings and condensed, overlooking the world with incomparable dominance. Du Xiaofu sat cross-legged in the air as the white divine light shrouded him. The light was dazzling, and the golden-winged rock shrouded him. He was like a son of God, mysterious and soul-shaking. At this moment, both the martial path and the spiritual talisman master realm had broken through. The aura was terrifying, and the space was chaotic. At this moment, only Du Xiaoyao had the fate to witness this shocking scene. What a terrifying aura! Consecutive breakthroughs. What benefits did this guy obtain? Du Xiaoyao's spirit eyes trembled in shock. Even he was shocked at this moment. Walala! The vast and mighty aura spread out astonishingly. After a long time, it gradually converged. Du Xiaofu's eyes were still tightly shut, but at this moment, an invisible soul energy was released like a tide. The fluctuations spread out in this misty space. Suddenly, the entire space appeared clearly in Du Xiaofu's mind. Everything in this space appeared clearly in his mind. Du Xiaofu's soul energy was able to detect every tiny corner of this space. Scenes of familiar places appeared in Du Xiaofu's mind. Back then, when he was in the heavenly martial talisman realm, he had comprehended the howling sky demon tiger beast energy, many talisman arrays, and the first, second, and third levels of the combat realm. In addition, there was an unfamiliar space where many martial skills, elixirs, spiritual weapons, talisman weapons, and so on were floating. This was where the spirit realm was located. With the fluctuations of his soul energy, Du Xiaofu could peek into the interior of the heavenly martial talisman realm. He felt that he could control the heavenly martial talisman realm, which was the current desolate ancient space. It was as if he had merged with the desolate ancient space. As long as his mind moved, he could control everything in the desolate ancient space. He could activate the talisman arrays and beast energy that he had comprehended thoroughly. Du Xiaofu clearly knew that if a strong enemy entered the desolate ancient space, He could immediately control the beast energy, talisman arrays, and so on in the desolate ancient space to suppress and kill the enemy. His mind could comprehend the beast energy secret arts, talisman arrays, and so on at any time. He could control the desolate ancient space's extremely special tenfold time speed, and so on. At this moment, all of these miraculous effects appeared in Du Xiaofu's mind in an extremely short period of time. Chi. Suddenly, Du Xiaofu, who was sitting cross-legged in the misty space, suddenly opened his eyes. At the same time, his eyes were dazzling. At the same time, his eyes were filled with shock and doubt, as if he had encountered the most terrifying or inconceivable thing. The second watch has arrived. Looking for fresh flowers and recommendations. Chapter 539. Where's the barren ancient space's spirit seed? Du Xiaofu opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with shock. After looking through everything in the barren ancient space, he realized that the barren ancient space's spirit seed had disappeared without a trace. Could it be that I merged with the barren ancient space's spirit seed? Du Xiaofu thought carefully about everything that had happened. He seemed to have recalled something. The barren ancient space's spirit seed seemed to have been swallowed and merged with by him. He did not just leave a soul imprint in the barren ancient space's spirit seed. Du Xiaofu did not know what would happen if he merged with the barren ancient space's spirit seed. However, what he felt the most was that he could clearly feel that he was different from before. The spiritual soul power in his mind's Niwen Palace was many times stronger than before. He had also reached the level of a 6-star spiritual talisman master. Such a terrifying breakthrough was shocking. A 6-star spiritual talisman master was equivalent to a martial king. There was no doubt that he was one step away from becoming a martial king. The surging spiritual soul power in his mind made Du Xiaofu feel that if he used the mysterious soul eye to deal with Lu Kuren back then, he would be able to trample on Lu Kuren directly. However, under such terrifying continuous breakthroughs, Du Xiaofu could feel that his Niwen Palace was showing signs of loosening. It seemed that breaking through too quickly had affected his foundation. He had to stabilize his spiritual soul power in the following period of time. You actually broke through to become a 6-star spiritual talisman master. Du Xiaoyao went forward and raised her head. Her pale golden spirit eyes looked at Du Xiaofu. She looked back and forth and seemed to be very surprised. Not bad. I'm a 6-star spiritual talisman master now. Du Xiaofu smiled. Next, he sensed the changes within his body. At that moment, his internal organs, bones, and muscles had grown stronger to a whole new level. That was especially true of his body. There seemed to be an additional lightning aura within his body. What shocked Du Xiaofu the most was that at this moment, the vigorous, profound qi within his body had reached an absolutely terrifying level, and his cultivation had stepped into the nirvana realm of the martial lord realm. Breaking through 2 levels in succession, coupled with the terrifying breakthrough in the spirit talisman master, this could be said to be an astonishing breakthrough. I've gained a lot. Du Xiaofu stood up with a smile in his eyes. He stretched his body in this misty space. His joints made cracking sounds, and a faint golden light was emitted from the surface of his body. It was as if every tiny cell on his body contained a terrifying energy that could erupt at any time. How comfortable. As Du Xiaofu stretched his waist, the carefree feeling that came with the breakthrough in his body was accompanied by a mouthful of turbid air that flowed out from his throat. His entire body was filled with an indescribable carefree feeling. Clenching his fist, Du Xiaofu felt that the vigorous, profound qi in his body and the energy in his cells and muscles could be used by him at any time, and could erupt at any time. This made Du Xiaofu have a feeling that if he punched an ordinary martial king who had just ascended to the martial king realm, it would be enough to directly smash the ordinary martial king realm cultivator into pieces of flesh and blood. Feeling such a strong sense of power, a smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. This feeling was really enjoyable. Looking at Du Xiaofu's expression that was laughing for no reason, Du Xiaoyao finally could not hold back. After glancing at Du Xiaofu, she curled her lips and said in disdain, "Can you put on your clothes first before laughing?" Fuck. As Du Xiaoyao's voice fell, Du Xiaofu immediately cursed. He immediately took out a purple robe from the storage bag floating in the surrounding space and put it on. His eyes were still staring at Du Xiaoyao, and then his eyes were filled with surprise as he said, "You also broke through?" "Yes, I swallowed so many elixirs, spiritual weapons, and practitioner weapons. Although they were used up, the energy still remained in my body, so I took the opportunity to break through a little." Du Xiaoyao's expression was extremely calm, and she did not have the pride that Du Xiaofu had after breaking through. Du Xiaofu nodded. Then, he raised his hand and sucked the purple gold heavenly palace that was floating in the space not far away into his hand. "Fortunately, there's no problem." Du Xiaofu heaved a sigh of relief when he sensed that the aura fluctuation within the purple gold heavenly palace seemed to be extremely stable. Back then, it seemed that when he activated and released that terrifying fiendish aura at the last moment, it was already difficult for him to control and he was almost swallowed by the fiendish aura. Du Xiaofu tore off another purple robe and wrapped the purple gold heavenly palace tightly around his shoulders and back. Only then did he relax. Although the power of the heavenly palace of purple gold was terrifying, and he could kill an ordinary martial royal realm expert if he activated it now, he would not dare to activate it again. The terrifying consequences were really unbearable. If he had not been lucky this time, the consequences would have been unimaginable. At this moment, Du Xiaofu naturally did not know that the heavenly palace of purple gold had already been suppressed by the space soul in the ancient, desolate space once. Otherwise, it would have broken the seal long ago. Du Xiaofu thought that he was lucky, which was why he had escaped this disaster. After a short moment, Du Xiaofu packed up and left this hazy space while fumbling about. After leaving, Du Xiaofu discovered that they had actually appeared in a crack in the ground of a bottomless abyss. They were still within the territory of the dark forest. Hula, a round ball of light that was less than the size of a palm appeared in Du Xiaofu's hand. The mysterious runes on the round ball of light flickered, spreading a multicolored light, and an ancient aura rippled and spread out. "Is this the desolate ancient space?" Du Xiaofu was quite surprised. The desolate ancient space, the former heavenly martial talisman, was actually this palm-sized ball of light. At this moment, Du Xiaofu could clearly feel everything in the desolate ancient space. He had completely merged with the desolate ancient space, as if he had merged with the desolate ancient space. This feeling was extremely mysterious and strange. "I feel that even I can't eat this thing. I'm afraid its origin is not simple." Du Xiaoyao looked at the desolate ancient space in Du Xiaofu's hand. The ancient aura that spread out from the ball of light made Du Xiaoyao feel that she couldn't swallow the ball of light. Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. With a thought, the desolate ancient space turned into a mysterious rune and swept into the space between his eyebrows. Then, he kept the desolate ancient space in his Niwen palace. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's Niwen palace had two balls of light. One was an object that was condensed from spiritual energy, and the other was the desolate ancient space. After the sun set, the twilight had become blurry. The sky that was filled with the sunset glow gradually became dull. Night fell, and stars began to hang on the dark blue curtain. In the boundless sky, a crescent moon wandered, seeming very lonely, but also very free. Occasionally, the night fog would cover the crescent moon, and within the mountains, it was dark and gloomy. Tianwu Academy. This once ancient land had turned into ruins. Broken walls and ruins were everywhere, and the faint smell of blood still lingered in the air, proving that the battle back then was bloody and tragic. So, in the night sky, a figure descended from the sky like a ghost. The figure was tall and thin, and he looked to be around 17 or 18 years old. His purple robe fluttered in the night. The purple-robed youth carried a broadsword on his back. The gaze in his eyes was deep and radiant in the dark night. How did it all end up like this? A golden monkey stood on the shoulder of the purple-robed youth. Looking at the scene of devastation, its spiritual eyes flickered, and it sighed with reluctance. The purple-robed youth didn't speak. He looked at the surroundings, and his resolute face was filled with coldness. Waves of aura surged out from his body, emitting a ferocious aura that sent chills down one's spine. A moment later, the purple-robed youth stood quietly in front of a huge tomb. After a long time, The purple-robed youth bowed to the tombstone. Looking at the densely packed names on the tombstone, he said softly, "Someone will pay for everything that Tianwu Academy has suffered tenfold. The inheritance of Tianwu Academy will definitely flourish, and at that time, it will be able to comfort your heroic souls." So. As soon as he finished speaking, the purple-robed youth and the golden monkey flew into the sky. In a flash, they disappeared into the night sky. Early in the morning, everything was silent. The night had faded, and the remnant stars hung in the sky. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Early in the morning, the forest in the chaotic demon city suddenly shook. The ground trembled, and the sea of trees rose and fell. Awu, in a short period of time, the roars of demonic beasts could be heard from the sky. Then, a large group of demonic beasts flapped their wings and soared into the sky. Along with a violent gale, the demonic beasts swept up countless rocks and dust. There were densely packed figures on the flying demonic beasts. Their gazes were sharp, and their auras surged and gathered, suppressing the sky. Rumble, on the ground, densely packed figures kept leaping out, like a swarm of locusts, covering the sky and earth. The black mass of people came and occupied the huge square outside the chaotic demon city, all the way to the mountains in the distance. Waves of sharp and bloody murderous aura swept out. The aura surged and shook the space and the earth, causing the entire Chaos Demon City to suddenly tremble. Set up the talisman array. Above the city walls of Chaos Demon City, a voice rang out. After that, a dazzling light flashed as a talisman formation was activated. Runic inscriptions gushed forth, distorting the space around it. A gigantic talisman formation instantly appeared above Chaos Demon City, suppressing the skies. "He's finally here." On the city wall, Yi Piaoling looked at the densely packed figures in front of him. On his indifferent face, there was a chill in his eyes. "Come on." Du Yunlong's shoulder-length black hair fluttered as he looked at the densely packed figures in front of him. His bronze skin faintly flowed with the luster of profound energy, and on his handsome face, his eyes were scarlet and fierce. Chapter 540. I'll kill whoever comes. Du Xiaoman looked at the endless crowd in front of her. She stood on the city gate tower with her long and straight legs, as if she was silently enchanting. Red shorts wrapped around her perky buttocks, and an orange-red loose top covered her body. Under her slender neck, her soft breasts were like white jade. They were half-covered, and a deep white jade cleavage was faintly discernible. Her white waist was tight, and it was easy to grasp. The Medicine King Yi Wuming stood on the city gate tower and looked outside the distorted space of the talisman array. At this moment, there was an endless black sea of people. He softly asked Li Shui, who was beside him, "Li Shui, has the news of going to the Chaos Demon Cliff been sent out?" "The news has been sent out long ago. If there are no accidents, the Heavenly Beast Hall at the Chaos Demon Cliff is already on the way." Li Shui pursed her red lips slightly. At this moment, she looked at the endless Dark Alliance army outside the city gate tower. Her delicate face was filled with killing intent, and her bright eyes were filled with worry and seriousness. She said, "The president's whereabouts are unknown. I'm afraid that the Chaos Demon Cliff will not be controlled." The Medicine King did not speak. He looked forward. "If the silver-winged demon eagle at the Chaos Demon Cliff doesn't come, I will tear them to pieces in the future." The little tiger's pitch-black cat-like body leaped onto the city gate tower. Its small body was about to pounce, and its eyes were filled with ferocity. Swish! Outside the Chaos Demon City, the morning sun shone, but at this moment, the sky was dark. The wind and clouds were surging, and the killing intent was monstrous. Under the mighty aura, even the light was swallowed. In the sky, over 100 figures suddenly flew out and floated in the sky. Waves of powerful and vigorous aura filled the sky and suppressed the entire Chaos Demon City. There were over 100 auras, and there were at least a few martial kings among them. That kind of aura was shocking, and it made one's soul tremble uneasily. The remaining close to 100 people were mostly at the Martial Lord realm. The few who had not reached the Martial Lord realm were at the peak of the perfected Pulse Spirit realm. On the city walls of Chaos Demon City, many people could recognize that the 100 strongest experts were all experts from the four great powers. They were all elders and protectors of the four great powers, and they were all infamous existences in the dark forest. This was especially true for the several figures at the front. When some of the World Society members on the City Gate Tower saw them, their faces were filled with shock and their hearts trembled. The first few people were the leaders of the four great forces. The Black Fiend Sect's Master Xue Tianqiu, the Twin Hatred Sect's Master Hin Tian and Hindi Brothers, the Thousand Clouds Pavilion's Master Wan Sampang, the Mu Family Fort's Master Mu Mingqing, and the rumored kings of the Dark Forest were all present. Massacre Chaos Demon City. The million-strong army of the Dark Coalition roared as their auras surged and filled the air. In the sky above the army, a group of experts' sharp auras spread. A tall and skinny old man in his 70s stepped into the air and looked at the city gate tower. His eyes were gloomy and cold, and there was a hint of mockery in his voice. He laughed loudly and coldly shouted, "I Wuming, surrender. As long as you join the Dark Coalition, I can make you the #1 elder. Otherwise, I will raise your bullshit World Society to the ground and leave no one alive." Hermit Wuzhan, I let you off back then and spared your life. I didn't expect you to dare to come and offend the World Society today. You can survive a disaster from the heavens, but you can't survive a disaster from your own doing. You will regret it. The King of Medicine replied loudly, his voice echoing throughout Chaos Demon City. Dr. Wuming, I gave you face, but you don't want it. When you fall into my hands, you'll regret it. Hearing this, Hermit Wuzhan's face turned green and red. He was extremely gloomy. Then, he said to Xue Tianqiu, Alliance Master Xue, let's raise Chaos Demon City to the ground. Xue Tianqiu's face darkened. He seemed to be dissatisfied with Hermit Wuzhan's bossy attitude. He was the leader of the Dark Alliance. However, Xue Tianqiu couldn't show it. After hearing this, he waved his hand and said, Everyone, listen up. Wash the World Society in blood and raise Chaos Demon City to the ground. In the sky, among the several figures at the front, there was a middle-aged man in a brocade robe. He wasn't tall, but he was astonishingly fat. His head was about the size of two people's heads. His face was so fat that his eyes seemed to be constantly squinting. He was the pavilion master of the Myriad Cloud Pavilion, Wan Sampang. Wan Sampang looked at Chaos Demon City in the sky. His squinting eyes flickered. Not far from him were two old men in their 70s. They were both thin and had long hair that reached their shoulders. However, one of them was wearing a blue robe, while the other was wearing a yellow robe. The two of them looked extremely similar, as if they were twins. There was probably no one in the Dark Forest who didn't know these two. They were the Twin Hatred Sects Hateful Heaven and Hateful Earth brothers. The two of them were experts who had been famous in the Dark Forest for a long time. Their methods were vicious and cruel, and countless people didn't dare to provoke them. At this moment, Hateful Heaven and Hateful Earth were looking at Chaos Demon City. Their eyes were cold, and their auras were shocking. They seemed to have the power to distort space. Beside Hateful Heaven and Hateful Earth, a burly man in his 40s stood in the air. He wasn't handsome, but he had a heroic aura. His eyes were bright, and he had a dignified aura. At this moment, his brows were slightly furrowed, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Wash the World Society in blood and raise Chaos Demon City to the ground. As Xue Tianqiu's voice fell, in an instant, countless fierce shouts rose and fell one after another. The fluctuations continued to resound like thunder, echoing for a long time, shaking one's soul. Rumble, murderous intent surged into the sky. Densely packed figures began to step into Chaos Demon City. Terrifying auras gathered and suppressed Chaos Demon City, causing the huge talisman array outside Chaos Demon City to fluctuate endlessly. In Chaos Demon City, hearing the earth-shaking shouts and the tens of thousands of disciples of the World Society standing behind the city walls, some people's hearts trembled and some were nervous. Facing the arrival of the alliance of the four great forces, everyone probably knew the result. The elites of the four great forces had come. If they didn't have help, they probably wouldn't be able to resist at all. At this moment, countless residents surged out of Chaos Demon City. They all stood in the streets and alleys, looking up at the auras that blotted out the sky in front of them. Their eyes were also nervous. After the World Society entered Chaos Demon City, the order in Chaos Demon City was much better. As long as they were residents of Chaos Demon City, they would be able to obtain a peaceful place to live in Chaos Demon City. Therefore, at this time, no one was willing to see the World Society destroyed by the Dark Alliance. If the World Society was destroyed and they hinted at a bloodbath in Chaos Demon City, they would also suffer a great calamity, and there would be no peace. Kill. Shouts of killing soared into the sky. Outside the city walls, there was a sea of people. The densely packed army of 1,000,000 advanced together, erupting with shocking sounds. Bang, bang, bang. As the earth shook and the mountains shook, the people of the Dark Alliance made their move. Numerous energy attacks shot out and began to attack the huge talisman array. Rumble. The talisman array shook and distorted, but it didn't break for the time being. Let's do it. There seemed to be 2 women in front. They are not bad. In the sky, an old man in his 60s with an extremely sharp mouth and monkey-like cheeks looked at the 2 graceful figures on the city wall. His eyes were filled with a perverted smile. The faintly discernible curves were enough to ignite the lust in his heart. One of them is from Tianwu Academy. She's not bad. The other one should be a newcomer. Hermit Wu Zhen said to the old man with the sharp mouth and monkey-like cheeks. That one is indeed not bad. I'm afraid you won't be able to find many like her in the entire dark forest. The old man with the sharp mouth and monkey-like cheeks said to Hermit Wu Zhen with a sinister smile, quickly break the array. The sooner we finish off the World Society, the sooner I can enjoy her. Hearing this, Hermit Wu Zhen nodded slightly. He raised his head and looked at the huge talisman array on the city wall. His figure traversed through space, leaving behind afterimages. When his figure stabilized, he was already outside the city wall. Looking at the huge talisman array on the city wall, Hermit Wu Zhen sneered. He said to Medicine King Yi Wuming, I personally set up this talisman array. You actually used it to stop me. It seems like the World Society is really weak. As his mocking words fell, Hermit Wu Zhen formed a hand seal. Energy rippled, and runes spread out. Mysterious runes surged out and connected with the surrounding space, connecting with the huge talisman array. Rumble. The huge talisman array that distorted space suddenly trembled. Then, under the trembling gazes of many people in Chaos Demon City, the huge talisman array turned into array flags. Then, the huge talisman array began to dissipate amidst a vast and mighty aura. Not good. The talisman array has been broken. The heavenly beast hall at Chaos Demon Cliff hasn't arrived yet. Li Shui bit her red lips. She clenched the long sword in her hand tightly, and her aura was sharp. The talisman array dissipated, and the array flags revolved around Hermit Wu Zhen. His aura was shocking. A 6-star mysterious realm talisman master, and a talisman master at that. In the entire dark forest, he was second to none. The Medicine King, Dr. Wuming, stared at the city tower. At this moment, Hermit Wu Zhen was extremely proud and arrogant. He shouted coldly, Dr. Wuming, seeing that you once saved me, I will give you one last chance. Submit to the Dark Alliance. Otherwise, I will wash the World Society with blood and raze Chaos Demon City to the ground. No need to talk nonsense. You, Hermit Wu Zhen, don't have the ability to massacre the World Society. The Medicine King stamped his feet with mystic chi, and his figure instantly flew into the sky above the city wall. A vast aura rippled through heaven and earth. Disciples of the World Society, listen up. Before a powerful enemy, we have no choice but to kill. Our World Society's reinforcements will arrive soon. By then, they will be able to annihilate the invaders. The Medicine King's voice reverberated in the sky above Chaos Demon City, landing in the ears of every World Society disciple. Kiki, what kind of reinforcements does your World Society have? That brat Du Xiaofu is dead, and Tianwu Academy has been destroyed. They can't even withstand a single blow. Hermit Wu Zhen sneered. How could a small World Society have reinforcements? They were just putting on a show. Who said that the World Society doesn't have reinforcements? The World Society of the Lonling Manor is here. Whoever dares to touch the World Society will be killed without mercy. In the distant sky, demonic beast mounts flapped their wings and roared loudly. Rumble. The ground below shook as a large group of demonic horses galloped over. There were quite a number of them, more than 10,000 of them. Chapter 541. A burly young man on top of a flying beast in the lead shouted. His broad chest muscles bulged slightly. Although his cultivation was not too high, his aura was extremely sharp. His talent was not weak. Beside this burly young man was a very fat young man. However, he was very good-looking. His fat face was handsome, and he always had a smile on his face. He looked like a smiling Buddha. Beside this fat young man was another young man. However, this young man exuded a completely different cold aura. A few strands of hair covered his eyes. His aura was cold. He had long black hair with distinct layers. He had a high-nosed bridge, and his thin lips were proud. He was wearing a golden robe and looked aloof. This young man's aura was similar to Yi Piaoling's. However, Yi Piaoling's figure was more slender. This golden-robed young man's aura was cold. It made people feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. However, Yi Piaoling's aura made people shiver. It was as if they were in hell. These three young men were the Lonling Four Young Masters. They were He Jun, Meng Likai, and Han Xian. The three of them had joined the World Society. There was no doubt that Du Xiaofu's foresight was sharp and accurate. With the addition of these three people, their intelligence, means, and background, the World Society had become the #1 force in Lonling Prefecture City in a short period of time. They had almost controlled the entire Lonling Prefecture City. A few days ago, after receiving Du Yunlong's message, Han Xian, He Jun, Meng Likai, and the others quickly gathered the elites of the World Society and came to the Chaos Demon City to provide support. Beside the three young men, there was a girl. She looked to be in her early 20s. She stood there quietly. Her body was lithe and soft. Her long black hair was so shiny that it could reflect one's reflection. It naturally fell to her waist. She was wearing a long dress, and her aura was otherworldly. She was as beautiful as a fairy who had walked out of a painting. Looking at her from afar, even Du Xiaoman and Li Shui were slightly inferior. There really are reinforcements. Our reinforcements are here. With the arrival of the Lonling Prefecture's World Society's reinforcements, the World Society's disciples in the chaotic demon city saw some hope. Listen up, disciples of the World Society. Behind us is the World Society. It's our home. No matter where you come from and why we came to the Dark Forest, we're all looking for a place to settle down. Facing a powerful enemy who wants to destroy your home, kill your friends and brothers, and take away your loved ones and women. Will you surrender and kneel down, offering your everything with both hands and becoming cowards? Or will you rise up and fight and make them pay with blood? Looking at the World Society's reinforcements from Lonling Prefecture City, Du Yunlong stepped out in the air. As soon as he finished speaking, the 7-foot-long battle blade, 1000 Kill in his hand blossomed with dazzling rune light. The battle blade let out a long cry like the wind and thunder. A terrifying aura instantly whistled through the cave. The rune light was incomparably sharp. Hearing Du Yunlong's words, the tens of thousands of disciples in the World Society looked at each other. Without a doubt, Du Yunlong's words had stirred up their blood. Immediately, someone in the crowd shouted, "Let's fight. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Let's fight. A debt of blood must be paid with blood." In the Chaos Demon City, battle cries erupted. One by one, the World Society's disciples gripped their ice blades tightly. Their auras surged, and their eyes turned blood red as they prepared to fight. "Humph, you're just a bunch of ants. You want to fight against us? Kill." Shui Tiancho sneered. He didn't care and waved his hand down, killing intent surging in his eyes. Kill. Suddenly, within the Dark Alliance, battle cries soared into the sky. A large group of people surged towards the Chaos Demon City, and one attack after another was launched. Rumble. The earth shook, and the mountains shook. Muffled sounds were like thunder. Vast and mighty waves of attacks swept out. Under the earth-shattering bombardment, The huge and sturdy city tower was on the verge of collapse. It didn't last for long before it completely collapsed. Dust drifted in the air, and gravel shot out. Swoosh, swoosh. On the city wall, a large group of figures suddenly flew into the air. Their auras erupted, and their weapons were unsheathed. Walala! The earth-shattering attacks immediately enveloped the entire Chaos Demon City. Runes filled the sky, and battle cries rolled out. A terrifying wave of people continuously surged towards the Chaos Demon City. Bang! 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 The World Society's disciples from the Lonling Mansion who came to reinforce the Chaos Demon City had just arrived when they were immediately surrounded by the Dark Alliance's disciples outside. The battle began first, and low muffled sounds of energy could be heard incessantly. Blood for blood. In the Chaos Demon City, the World Society's disciples erupted and charged out with a furious roar. Instantly, the World Society's disciples and the Dark Alliance's army collided fiercely. Battle cries, and the sound of energy colliding resounded in the Chaos Demon City. Lend a helping hand to the World Society. In the streets and alleys of the Chaos Demon City, residents of the Chaos Demon City rushed out to attack. If the World Society was destroyed, their fate could be imagined. The World Society has treated us well. If the World Society is destroyed, we won't have good days either. Help the World Society. As the first Chaos Demon City resident rushed out, a large group of figures in the crowd immediately rushed into the sky to help the World Society. The World Society thanks everyone for your help. After today, the World Society will remember everyone's kindness. Du Xiaoman stepped into the air, looking sexy and enchanting. She held her long sword tightly, and her aura was sharp. The red long sword in her hand drew a sword light, and the sword light instantly rushed out, leaving behind a sword-shaped afterimage in the air. It was as fast as lightning, sweeping towards the Dark Alliance's people in front. Yi Piaoling stepped into the air, and her eyes were piercingly sharp. The serene python in her hand shook like a spiritual python, and a sharp wave of killing aura spread out. Strands of runes flickered out, encircling her body. Kill. A sharp and powerful aura suddenly burst out from Yi Piaoling's body. Instantly, the sword light swept out and swept towards the Dark Alliance's army. A large group of Dark Alliance's disciples were directly killed. Those who offend the World Society, kill. Du Yunlong attacked, and the battle saber in his hand slashed out. The vast and mighty energy spread out like huge waves, and the sound was deafening. Several Dark Alliance's disciples were killed. Roar. The little tiger roared, and its huge and terrifying body was revealed. The ink-black runes were dazzling, and it flapped its wings, sweeping across the sky. Under the terrifying pressure, all the demonic beast mounts in the sky trembled in fear and fell from the sky. Walala! The little tiger rushed out, flapping its wings, sweeping across a large group of Dark Alliance's disciples. Its tiger claws tore through the sky, and many Dark Alliance's disciples were directly shattered, turning into blood mist. The huge little tiger's ferocious attack made many Dark Alliance's disciples tremble, and the World Society's disciples' morale soared. After Du Xiaoman, Yi Piaoling, Du Yunlong, and the little tiger attacked, Li Shui, Hua Fankong, Xiaowenqing, Bai Qi, Chao Yu, and the others all moved together. Their auras burst out, and they charged towards the Dark Alliance's army. A great battle was about to break out. Miserable cries rang out, and fierce auras swept across the sky. In a short time, the Chaos Demon City was filled with blood, and it was extremely tragic. Wash the World Society in blood. Shui Tianqiu sneered with a malevolent expression. He could only take revenge for his son's death on the World Society. His baleful aura swept out as he charged towards the Chaos Demon City. I will deal with Shui Tianqiu. Eagle King gritted his teeth. He had yet to recover from his injuries, but his Xian Qi surged as he rushed towards the sky, taking the lead to block Shui Tianqiu. The Medicine King Yi Wuming's eyes trembled. He waved his hand, and many fierce puppets flew out from his Qinkuan bag, pouncing towards the Dark Alliance's army. Yi Wuming, you refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. It's your turn. Two figures appeared in front of the Medicine King. They were Mountain Man Wuzhen and the monkey-faced old man. Two soul-shaking energies locked onto the Medicine King's body, causing the surrounding space to faintly distort. 5 Poisons Mountain Man. The Medicine King frowned slightly. He wasn't afraid of either 5 Poisons Mountain Man or Mountain Man Wuzhen, but now that the two of them had joined forces, and he had yet to recover from his injuries, the situation was extremely bad. Wuming, have a taste of my poison technique? The 5 Poisons Hermit sneered and took the initiative to attack. A surge of energy accompanied by poisonous gas gushed out from his body, turning into a massive black fog storm that was several dozen feet in size. It directly enveloped and expanded toward Medicine King Wuming. Facing that monstrous poisonous fog storm, the Medicine King frowned slightly. He was vigilant and didn't dare to be careless. He waved his hand and a large energy rune circle surged out, blocking the poisonous fog storm. Rumble. In a short period of time, the entire Chaos Demon City was filled with a bitter battle. Everywhere was chaos, mournful wails, and muffled energy sounds. There was no doubt that the world society was at a disadvantage. However, in such a chaotic battle, the world society had more than 10 times the number of people. Fortunately, the number of people who could participate in the encirclement was limited, allowing the world society disciples to gain some time. However, the world society disciples were constantly dying, and blood flowed like a river. Roar. In a short period of time, countless pulse soul phantoms appeared everywhere. The world society's strength depended on the pulse soul phantoms. A bitter and bloody battle broke out in the sky. The sky was drenched in blood, and there were people who constantly turned into blood mists. Amidst the chaotic battle, Mu Mingqing looked around at Mu Zhenghao, Lu Linxiao, and the rest who had gathered behind him. He gritted his teeth, nodded, and suddenly shouted, "Disciples of the Mu Clan Fort, listen up! The Mu Clan Fort will withdraw from the Dark Coalition and assist the world society." As his roar fell, Mu Mingqing's mighty aura swept out. Mu Zhenghao, Lu Linxiao, and the rest of the Mu Clan Fort's powerhouses were prepared. They immediately changed sides and attacked the people from the other 3 forces. The Mu Clan Fort is our ally. We really have an ally helping us. Kill. The Mu Clan Fort's sudden change of sides made the World Society disciples excited. This was definitely a pleasant surprise. 2 night watches in a row. I weekly call out flowers to thank my readers. I'll continue writing. All right. Chapter 542. Even King of Medicine Wuming, Eagle King, Gong Dao, Chao Yu, Hua Fankong, Du Yunlong, and Yi Piaoling were surprised. They did not expect the Mu Clan Fort, which had never interacted with them, to suddenly change sides and help the world society. However, the Mu Clan Fort's sudden change of sides confused Xue Tianqiu, Hateful Heaven, and Third Fatty Wan. This was especially so for Xue Tianqiu. He shouted angrily at Mu Mingqing, "Mu Mingqing, do you want to die? You're poisoned. Without the antidote from 5 Poisons Hermit, you're dead meat." Xue Tianqiu, what's there to be afraid of? Unfortunately, you invited the wolf into the house. The leader of the Dark Coalition is just a puppet of Hermit Wuzhen and 5 Poisons Hermit. I'm afraid that once the world society is destroyed, your position as the leader of the Dark Coalition will fall. Wake up. It's not too late to regret, Mu Mingqing shouted. Bastard. Xue Tianqiu was furious. Mu Mingqing's words had undoubtedly pricked the wound in his heart. Over the past few days, how could Xue Tianqiu not feel that Mountain Man Wuzhen and Mountain Man 5 Poisons had stolen the limelight and gradually suppressed him? However, how could he be willing to be used? He planned to secretly deal with Mountain Man Wuzhen and Mountain Man 5 Poisons after wiping out the World Society and Chaos Demon Cliff. Fort Lord Mu, why do you have to do this? You're poisoned. You know the consequences. Third Fatty Wan appeared in front of Mu Mingqing. His narrowed eyes moved slightly, and his aura was extremely powerful. Pavilion Lord Wan, it's still not too late to turn back. You're poisoned. The World Society has King of Medicine. There might be a way. Mu Mingqing looked at Third Fatty Wan, trying to persuade him to change sides. Pavilion Lord Wan, hurry up and kill that traitor. In midair, Hermit Wuzhen, who was attacking King of Medicine, broke free and rushed toward Mu Mingqing. Hermit Wuzhen was really afraid that Mu Mingqing would persuade Third Fatty Wan to change sides. If that happened, all their efforts would be wasted. Boom! As Hermit Wuzhen appeared, a vast energy affected the soul and instantly enveloped Mu Mingqing. Humph! Mu Mingqing snorted coldly. He waved his hand and sent out a palm strike. Instantly, the collision of their energies caused the air to tremble. Wan Sampang hesitated for a moment, his narrowed eyes inwardly rippling. Then, he waved his hand and joined Mountain Man Wuzhen in attacking Mu Mingqing. Bang! 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 The fierce battle continued. However, at this moment, with the Mu clan fort's defection, almost hundreds of thousands of Mu clan fort's disciples immediately attacked the people around them. This immediately relieved the pressure on the World Society's disciples, and they saw hope. So, in the vast sky, a figure streaked across and appeared outside the Chaos Demon City. It was a young man with a tall and sturdy figure. His blue and white robe fluttered slightly, and he looked handsome. After his gaze swept across the sky, the young man suddenly took a step forward. A terrifying aura erupted, and his figure pounced towards the Dark Coalition's army. Kill! The young man made his move. The long spear in his hand lashed out, and a terrifying aura overflowed from the body of the spear. A bright and domineering spear light gushed out, and a large area of the surrounding ground was turned into dust and swept out in all directions. Wherever the spear light passed, a large number of figures in the Dark Coalition army were turned into pieces. Kill! Ferocious and sharp energy swept out in all directions. The young man's spear light was like lightning, and his aura was like a landslide. The bright yellow spear light covered the sky and earth, and with a sharp sonic boom, it tore through the space like lightning. Its momentum was like thunder, and a black fiend sect elder who had just ascended to the martial lord realm was killed instantly. The young man was ferocious, and mysterious runes burst out from his body like a ferocious beast. Wherever he passed, the space trembled violently, and blood mist spurted out. No one could stop him. In the World Society, Yi Piaoling, Hua Fankong, Eagle King, Gong Dao, and the others all noticed the mysterious young man. How did he recover his strength? Li Shui and Du Xiaoman, who were in the midst of a fierce battle, also noticed the mysterious young man. Their delicate faces were filled with doubt, but they did not have time to be distracted, and they continued to immerse themselves in the fierce battle. Roar, woo, woo! In the midst of the fierce battle, the thunderous roar of a demonic beast suddenly came from the distant sky, and it was like a muffled thunder. Rumble, the earth shook, the mountains shook, and the forest rose and fell. Waves of terrifying and ferocious aura swept out. In the distant sky, it was as if a destructive storm was approaching. Roar! At this moment, the little tiger's huge tiger body flapped its wings and circled in the air. It was incomparably ferocious, and its roar resounded. It glared at the sky and shouted, "Silver-winged demonic condor, subduing tiger mastiff, blue flame red leopard. The three of you better come over and help me. Otherwise, when the third young master returns, he will definitely teach you a lesson." Silver-winged demonic condor? As the little tiger's voice fell, the hearts of countless people in the Chaos Demon City trembled. Just the words silver-winged demonic condor were enough to make countless people tremble in fear. Even Shui Tianqiu, Hermit Wuzhen, Hen Tian, Hindi, and the others turned their gazes to the front when they heard the words silver-winged demonic condor. "Aren't they here now? Why are you so loud?" A faint voice casually fell, and it was calm, but it made people's hearts tremble. When the voice fell, three figures had already appeared in the sky. The three of them floated in the air, causing the world to tremble for no reason. One of them was a red-clothed, red-faced man in his 40s. His body was robust, and there was a scarlet light dancing in his eyes like flames. The second person looked a little younger, only around 30 years old. His body was imposing, and he seemed to have strong bones and tendons. His eyes shot out cold stars, and he had the aura of a tiger that could shake a lion. The one in front was a white-clothed young man who looked to be around 27 or 28 years old. He was extraordinarily handsome, and his deep eyes were filled with a domineering and devilish aura. His temperament was noble and complicated, and his entire body emitted a king's aura that could shake the world. He glanced at the tragic battle below, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. There was a faint, evil smile at the corner of his mouth, and then he raised his head slightly to look at the king's scaled demonic tiger. There was a smile in his eyes, and he seemed to be in awe. However, his tone was naturally indifferent as he said, "Isn't it just one pavilion and one castle? Just kill them all." When his voice fell, the aura of the white-clothed young man suddenly sank, and a chill swept across the sky. Silver-winged demon condor, subduing tiger mastiff, blue flame red leopard. They are the three king demonic beasts of the Chaos Demon Cliff. Following the appearance of these three figures, Shuetiancho, Hateful Heaven, Hateful Earth, Wan Sampang, Wuzhen Mountain Man, and the other experts from the two sects of the pavilion and the castle were all shocked. In this short period of time, with the arrival of the silver-winged demon condor and the other two, the sky and earth in the distance trembled, the mountain forest rose and fell, and a dense beast tide suddenly surged out like an earthquake. GG. In the air, a large number of vicious birds flapped their wings and flew over. Waves of air swept out like a gust of wind. The vicious birds hissed and flapped their wings as they circled in the air, like dark clouds covering the sky. There were also many pulse spirit realm beasts standing in the air. A huge yellow python was circling in the air. Half of its huge body was still hidden in the clouds high up in the sky, like a huge dragon floating in the air. Its entire body was emitting a cold aura, causing one's heart to tremble for no reason. A single-horned demon cow stood tall, like a huge mountain moving horizontally, causing the surrounding space to ripple. A lion stood tall, as huge as a mountain, its aura shocking the heavens. In front of the terrifying beast tide, there were no less than 20 huge beast lords surging out. In the air, the vicious birds flapped their wings, their sharp claws sharp enough to pierce through mountains and split rocks. On the ground, the vicious beasts roared, their fangs terrifying, and their eyes emitted various colored runes. GG. The surrounding vicious birds and beasts roared again and again, like thunder that resounded in all directions. The beast tide had arrived. Wherever it passed, the earth and mountains would shake, and gravel would shoot out. Rumble. The terrifying beast tide surged and swept over in an instant. There were definitely no less than tens of thousands of them. This was definitely a huge and terrifying lineup that shook one's soul. Seeing it with one's own eyes was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Demonic beasts were much larger than humans. Therefore, although there were only tens of thousands of demonic beasts, when gathered together, they were even larger than the million-strong army of the Dark Alliance. That kind of aura was undoubtedly much more ferocious. The terrifying vicious birds were like dark clouds covering the sky. The roars of the vicious beasts were astonishing, and their auras were terrifying. The cries of the birds and beasts rose and fell one after another, causing one's hair to stand on end. They're here. They're finally here. The upper echelons of the world faction, the King of Medicine, Eagle King, Du Yunlong, Du Xiaoman, Li Shui, Hua Fankong, and the rest, were all overjoyed when they saw the terrifying beast tide approaching. They secretly heaved a sigh of relief. All beasts, listen up. Help the world faction and kill all the invaders. Leave no one alive. Up in the sky, the subduing tiger and tyrannical mastiff roared. The sound waves rumbled through the heavens like thunder, accompanied by a terrifying aura that spread across the sky. As the subduing tiger and tyrannical mastiff roared, countless beasts roared in response. Rumble. The ground trembled, and the mountains shook. The thunderous roars of the beasts could be heard. In the sky and on the ground, the astonishing beast horde directly charged towards the crowd, causing the entire area to seethe with rage. To the demonic beasts, devouring the flesh, blood, profound chi, and spirit of human cultivators was also very beneficial, just like how humans devoured the flesh and blood of demonic beasts. Whoosh! In a short period of time, Countless ferocious beasts flapped their wings in the sky. A storm swept across the sky, and runes filled the sky. Many of the Alliance army's men were directly crushed into a bloody mist. Oh, on the ground, wherever the demonic beasts passed, the Alliance army's flesh and blood splattered everywhere. Blood flowed like a river, and a large number of bodies were trampled into pieces. Swish! A lion opened its mouth, and it could swallow hundreds of people. Ah! Miserable cries continued. A huge demonic wolf clawed, and dozens of Alliance army's men were turned into a bloody mist. Kacha! A huge patterned tiger opened its ferocious mouth, and in an instant, crushed 6 or 7 Alliance army's men. Blood dripped, and flesh and blood spilled out. The sight of its sharp fangs made one tremble in fear. Not good, run. Run for your lives. Such a shocking turn of events was simply a nightmare for the armies of the Black Fiend sect, the Twin Hatred sect, and the 10,000 Cloud Pavilion. They all felt a chill run down their spines, and they did not dare to stay for even a moment longer as they hastily fled. The ferocious impact of the demonic beast tide made even the most powerful people not dare to resist. In front of the terrifying demonic beast tide, a 1,000,000-strong army seemed insignificant, not to mention that the Mu clan fort had changed sides. What's going on? Why are the demonic beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff helping the World Society? Under this shocking turn of events, Shuet Tiancho, Hateful Heaven, Hateful Earth, Hermit Wuzhen, and the others were all trembling in fear, and their expressions were extremely ugly. They really did not understand why the terrifying demonic beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff would side with the World Society. The demonic beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff are here to help our World Society. Kill them. The World Society's disciples had been suppressed and killed. They were at an absolute disadvantage, and there were countless casualties. They were covered in wounds, and blood flowed like a river. At this moment, when they saw the terrifying demonic beast tide, they initially thought that the demonic beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff had taken the opportunity to attack the World Society. When they suddenly found out that the terrifying demonic beast tide on the Chaos Demon Cliff was here to help the World Society, the World Society's disciples were shocked, and then they were overjoyed. It was as if they had been injected with a cardiac stimulant, and they immediately exploded with crazy combat power. The Mu Clan Fort's disciples were also shocked at this moment, but they immediately clustered together with the World Society's disciples. The demonic beast tide had no eyes, and it would not separate them. Only by being together with the World Society's disciples could they save their lives. Looking at the terrifying demonic beast tide, the Mu Clan Fort's disciples could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. Originally, some people in the Mu Clan Fort were puzzled and dissatisfied with the Fort Master's decision to help the World Society. At this moment, all the Mu Clan Fort's disciples realized that the Fort Master had a well-thought-out plan. Otherwise, it would be too late for regrets. Big Chapter: Forceful Pursuit of Flowers. Chapter 543. However, the disciples of the Mu family fort did not know that their fort master did not have a card up his sleeve. Instead, he had feelings in his heart and would never go against the World Society. He had already been preparing to switch sides. Oh my God! Run away! Save me! Run away quickly! Run! Run! There are too many demonic beasts. They are too terrifying. The terrifying beast tide came and the Alliance army panicked. They hated their parents for not giving them 2 more legs to run for their lives. They did not have the heart to fight back and were already panicking. They were so scared that cold sweat broke out on their backs. Roar! The advancement of the terrifying beast tide was simply destructive to the Alliance army. It was unstoppable. All martial marquee realm cultivators, stop the demonic beasts. Quick! Shui Tiancho attacked Eagle King Gong Dao and caused him to vomit blood. His murderous aura filled the sky, and he had to temporarily give up on killing Eagle King Gong Dao. His roar reverberated in the sky. Swoosh, swoosh. At this time, dozens of martial marquee realm cultivators from the 3 forces immediately broke away from the fight with the World Society and the powerhouses from the Mu family fort. Waves of vast energy swept across the sky and pounced toward the terrifying beast tide that shook the heavens and earth. Puny humans. The golden demonic python, the blazing flame mountain-splitting bear that had recovered, the armored demonic vulture, and the other beast marquee realm cultivators among the demonic beasts suddenly appeared. Rumble. No less than 20 beast marquee realm demonic beasts rose and fell one after another. Their mountain-like bodies immediately blocked the path of the martial marquee realm experts from the three major factions. Bang, bang, bang. In an instant, a shocking battle was accompanied by dazzling runes that scattered across the sky. The muffled sound of energy was endless. Other than dealing with Yi Piaoling, Chao Yu, Hua Fankong, and the others, the number of martial marquee stage cultivators in the alliance of the three great factions far exceeded the number of beast marquee stage demonic beasts. They were actually able to resist the beast marquee stage demonic beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff in a moment of joint attack. As the experts joined forces to resist the demonic beast experts, the remaining alliance army gradually stabilized their trembling souls amidst their miserable cries. They joined forces in a panic to block the demonic beast tide. They formed countless joint attack formations and gradually resisted the demonic beast tide with the force of a human wave. Walala! Du Yunlong's 1,000 kill burst out with a sharp killing intent. At this moment, Yi Piaoling's serene python shot out countless swordlights. It was unknown when the two had joined forces, but they were blocked by Hintian, who was wearing a blue robe. Pucci. However, even with the two of them working together, it was still difficult for them to resist. After a few moves, they were both sent flying, blood spurting from their mouths. Pucci. In the fierce battle, Du Xiaoman's mouth was dripping with blood, and her whole body was stained with blood. This girl isn't weak, but it's a pity that she's still too young. Die. Hating the heavens, hating the earth, hating the earth. After killing many World Society disciples in the crowd, he mysteriously appeared in front of Du Xiaoman. His aged face revealed a cold smile and murderous intent. A fierce palm print pressed down from his hand, intending to kill Du Xiaoman. The terrifying and sharp palm print seemed to distort space. Even with Du Xiaoman's cultivation and strength, she was unable to resist a king stage expert like Hindi. Don't you dare touch my beauty. Get lost. An indifferent and playful voice with noble demonic intent sounded. A handsome man in white instantly appeared in front of Du Xiaoman. It was the silver-winged demonic condor from the Chaos Demon Cliff. He waved his hand, and a fist print collided directly with Hindi's palm print. Bang! With a low, dull sound, the space was about to explode. Subsequently, the former's palm print was directly destroyed. His body was like a kite with a broken string as he suddenly crashed down from the sky. Pucci. Hindi's body was already vomiting blood in midair. His eyes were filled with fear. Then, his body directly plunged into the ground with a loud rumble. Hindi's aged face was filled with shock. His body crawled out from the rubble with fear in his eyes. Complete Beast King stage. How did he break through so quickly? The silver-winged demonic condor had actually reached the complete Beast King stage. This made Hindi tremble. Not long ago, he heard that someone had broken through to the Nirvana realm of the Beast King stage. He couldn't fight against the silver-winged demonic condor, who was at the complete Beast King stage. Even if the two brothers joined forces, they were definitely not his match. Many thanks. Du Xiaoman was shocked. Looking at the white-clothed youth in front of her, she had already guessed that this person was the silver-winged demonic condor from the Chaos Demon Cliff, the Beast King of the entire Dark Forest. But now, he had already been subdued by her third brother into the Heavenly Beast Hall. She just didn't expect that the silver-winged demonic condor's human form would be so handsome, and his strength was also so terrifying. No need to thank me. I'm very happy to help you, beauty. The silver-winged demonic condor's face was filled with a smile. If an ordinary girl saw this smile, her heart would be moved. Then quickly go and help the Eagle King. Don't delay, Du Xiaoman said. Her fiery body emitted a sharp chill. She signaled for the silver-winged demonic condor to help the Eagle King Gongblade. The Eagle King Gongblade that had yet to recover from his injuries was once again heavily injured. The situation was critical. Since the beauty has spoken, there's naturally no problem. The silver-winged demonic condor nodded. His figure suddenly flew out and pounced towards Xue Tianqiu like a ghost. Puny human, die. The scarlet-eyed blue flame-red leopard had already made his move. His figure flashed past, and the Alliance army below exploded. Pung pung pung. The blue flame-red leopard's figure immediately pounced towards the martial marquee experts that were working together to resist the beast marquee demonic beasts. As he attacked, blood mist poured out. Kill. The subduing tiger and tyrannical mastiff attacked. Their bodies were cold and their auras were terrifying. A large group of people exploded. Pavilion Master Wan, this is your last chance. Leave the Dark Alliance. I will plead with the World Society to protect your Thousand Cloud Pavilion. The poison in your body, with the Medicine King, will have a chance. Mu Mingqing shouted again. During the battle, he could feel that although Third Fatty Wan and Mountain Man Wu Zhan were working together, they did not have any true killing intent. They had been intentionally or unintentionally relaxing. Thus, Mu Mingqing wanted to try persuading Third Fatty Wan. As long as the Thousand Cloud Pavilion changed sides, the Black Fiend Sect and Twin Hatred Sect's plan would fail. The World Society's situation would be settled, and they would be able to topple the Dark Alliance. Mu Mingqing, do you think the 5 poisons Mountain Man's poison is easy to cure? You can't even protect yourself. Do you want to implicate others? Mountain Man Wu Zhan's expression changed. The addition of the terrifying demonic beasts from the chaotic demon cliff had already made him feel uneasy and fearful. If the Thousand Cloud Pavilion also changed sides, the consequences would be unimaginable. Today's plan was supposed to be foolproof, but now, everything had gone beyond his plan. It's time to make a choice. Third Fatty Wan's eyes seemed to be constantly squinting. Suddenly, a bright light shot out from his eyes. A vast Xian Qi accompanied by runes swept out like a storm. In the end, it turned into a fat turtle that was dozens of feet long. The runes on the turtle's shell exploded. Its aura was terrifying as it suppressed Mountain Man Wu Zhan. Third Fatty Wan, what are you doing? You will regret it. Mountain Man Wu Zhan's expression changed. This was what he was most afraid of, but it had still happened. Rune energy erupted to resist the fat turtle. The matters of the Dark Forest are not for outsiders to meddle in. Just control Xue Tianqiu and make him your puppet. I'm afraid the one regretting it now is you. Third Fatty Wan roared. Then, his voice echoed through the sky along with Xian Qi. The Thousand Cloud Pavilion has left the Dark Alliance. All disciples of the Thousand Cloud Pavilion, assist the World Union. As Third Fatty Wan's roar sounded, all the disciples and experts of the Thousand Cloud Pavilion felt as if they had been pardoned. They immediately changed sides and attacked the Twin Hatred Sect and Black Fiend Sect. Not good, we can't hold on any longer. Run for your lives. The Thousand Cloud Pavilion had once again changed sides. The alliance that was barely able to resist the beast tide immediately collapsed. The disciples of the Black Fiend Sect and Twin Hatred Sect were once again in a nightmare. Bastard, Third Fatty Wan, I won't let you off. Xue Tianqiu was furious. His murderous aura overflowed as his cold roar echoed through the sky. What are you shouting for? Xue Tianqiu, we meet again. Back then, you took something from me. Now, it's time to settle the score. The silver-winged demonic condor's figure appeared beside Xue Tianqiu. On his handsome face, there was a domineering look in his eyes. His gaze was awe-inspiring as a terrifying pressure spread out. It seemed that he already had a deep grudge with Xue Tianqiu. Boom! A claw mark formed in the silver-winged demonic condor's palm. The claw mark spurted out talisman runes. Its aura was like a raging wave that could collapse mountains and split the earth. It directly crushed Xue Tianqiu. Complete Beast King realm. How did you break through so quickly? Xue Tianqiu's expression changed. He knew how terrifying the silver-winged demonic condor was. Back then, when the silver-winged demonic condor was at the peak of the mysterious realm, he was already helpless. He was even heavily injured by the silver-winged demonic condor. However, last time, in a secret area, he still managed to obtain some benefits from the silver-winged demonic condor. However, at this time, the silver-winged demonic condor had reached the complete Beast King realm in a short period of time. How could he still fight back? He could only quickly escape. The tragic battle continued. Corpses were strewn all over the place, and wails were endless. However, at this time, there was a sudden change in the battle. With the arrival of the monsters at the Chaos Demon Cliff, the Mu family fort and the 10,000 Clouds pavilion changed sides. At this moment, the World Society had the absolute upper hand. The remaining disciples of the Black Fiend sect and the Twin Hatred sect were suffering a nightmare, waiting to be slaughtered. Ah, miserable wails. Everywhere, ferocious beasts and birds of prey were crazily charging and killing the crowd. The smell of blood assailed the nostrils, and all kinds of roars were deafening. A terrifying large number of monsters were swallowing the disciples of the Black Fiend sect and the Twin Hatred sect. Blood surged, and blood dripped from their fangs. It was a tragic sight. In the vast and tragic battle, a beautiful woman's cultivation was not too high. She was only at the pulse spirit realm. Blood dripped from her mouth. Her long eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes were like autumn water. It was breathtaking. Chapter 544. Pucci, the absolute beauty, was attacked by a black-clothed burly man. His murderous aura engulfed her, and a palm struck her shoulder. Her light and delicate body was instantly sent flying backward. Blood spurted out of her mouth, and she was unable to defend herself. When the absolute beauty stabilized her delicate body, her long black hair was messily draped over her waist. Although her entire body was stained with blood and the corners of her mouth were bleeding, she still had an otherworldly temperament. Die. The black-clothed burly man's eyes were bloodshot. Deafening beast roars and miserable wails could be heard around him. His blood-red eyes were filled with fear. He chased after her, and a fist directly smashed towards the absolute beauty. Be careful. Not far away, Han Xian, Very June, Meng Like and Du Yunlong, who was being hatefully attacked, saw this and their expressions changed drastically. They were so frightened that their expressions changed drastically. However, they were all in the midst of an intense battle and were unable to rescue her. Chi. Just as everyone's expressions changed drastically from fright, a blurry purple-robed figure suddenly appeared in front of the absolute beauty. At this moment, the black-clothed burly man seemed to have suddenly felt something. An inexplicable chill spread out from the depths of his soul, and the profound energy in his body inexplicably stagnated. Then, before the black-clothed burly man could react, a golden claw suddenly landed on his head. Without any warning, without any sound, a tyrannical energy that the black-clothed burly man could not resist poured down. Kacha! The black-clothed burly man could even clearly hear the sound of his skull breaking. Then, his head was directly crushed by the claw. Before he died, he did not even see who killed him. He only knew that it was a purple-robed figure whose aura made him unable to resist. The purple-robed figure that suddenly appeared with a purple broadsword on his back and a little golden macaque on his shoulder threw down the black-clothed burly man's corpse. There was not a trace of blood on his body. Then, the purple-robed youth slightly turned his head. On his resolute face, his sharp gaze recovered a little. His deep and clear eyes looked at the dumbfounded absolute beauty behind him. He gently stuffed a pill in his hand into her red lips that were stained with dark red blood. Then, he used his purple robe sleeves to wipe the dark red blood from the corner of his mouth. He softly said, "Step back a little. Leave the rest to me." As his voice fell, the purple-robed youth's figure had already disappeared from the spot like an afterimage, disappearing from the absolute beauty's eyes. It's him. He's here. The beautiful woman slowly came back to her senses. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes glowed. President, third brother. In the intense battle, Han Xian, He Jun, and Du Yunlong were all stunned. And they were in an instant, they were in the midst. Chi. Just as Du Yunlong was in the midst of his ecstasy, Hentian destroyed Yi Piaoling's serene python, sword radiance, and sent Yi Piaoling's body flying. At the same time, his figure rushed over, and a palm print appeared in front of Du Yunlong like a thunderbolt. Chi. A purple-robed figure appeared in front of Du Yunlong like lightning. He waved his hand and a golden light burst out. His hand was like a palm leaf fan, causing the space to crack. Layers of golden talisman mysterious inscriptions swept out like the wings of a golden-winged roc, violently attacking Henshin's palm print. Chilala. Henshin's palm print was instantly destroyed. Then, many people were shocked to see Hentian, whose strength was at the peak of the advanced stage of the Martial King realm, spit out a large mouthful of blood without any warning. His body was immediately sent flying. His cold eyes were filled with shock and fear. Chi. After sending Henshin's body flying with one hand, the purple-robed figure rushed out. Golden light burst out from his body, and a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from his body. Then, a pair of rune wings flapped on his back. Majestic light filled the air. He was like a roc flapping its wings and soaring into the 9 heavens. Boom! At this moment, the purple-robed youth was powerful and domineering. He was like a real roc descending. His domineering and terrifying aura filled the sky. He flapped his wings and swept across the sky, suppressing Hentian. He was domineering and sharp, crushing everything in his path. Then, under countless shocked gazes, the purple-robed youth pressed down on Hentian, who was covered in blood and whose eyes were filled with fear. His claw directly grabbed Henshin's throat. An expert who had just reached the peak of the Martial King realm was instantly restrained in his hand. Flap, flap. The wings on the purple-robed youth's back suddenly vibrated. Golden light bloomed in the sky, and the airflow whistled in the sky. The momentum was terrifying. Roar! The domineering aura descended, causing the surrounding beasts to tremble and roar endlessly. At this moment, in this space, countless figures looked over. Countless shocked gazes landed on the purple-robed youth. He's back. As expected, he's as good as new. It seems that his strength has increased greatly. Eagle King Gong Dao was saved by the silver-winged demonic condor and blocked Shui Tianqiu. He looked at the purple-robed youth who suddenly appeared. After the shock in his eyes, he revealed a look of joy. Third brother is back. Du Xiaoman looked at the purple-robed youth. Her eyes trembled. There was no surprise, only joy. This kid's strength seems to have increased greatly. Medicine King Yi Wuming looked at the people of the 5 Poisons Mountain who were fighting fiercely. His pale face revealed a look of joy. The silver-winged demonic condor, subduing tiger, tyrant mastiff, and blue flame-red leopard looked at the purple-robed youth. Their gazes changed and they immediately went down on one knee. Greetings, Palace Master. Greetings, Palace Master. In the heavenly beast hall, all the huge demonic beasts of the Beast Lord realm were prostrating. The golden demonic python, iron-armored demonic vulture, and other ferocious beasts were prostrating. Roar! Countless demonic beasts roared and crawled on the ground. The sound waves spread in all directions, and the sky changed color. It's the president. The president is back? Who said the president is dead? Our president is back. So the president has already subdued those demonic beast experts. The crowd was stunned. At this moment, it seemed that both sides had temporarily stopped fighting. They looked at the sky in shock. As for the disciples of the World Society, their morale was undoubtedly greatly boosted. They were all boiling with excitement. In the air, Du Xiaofu stood proudly. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Gradually, coldness emerged and killing intent fluctuated. The rune wings on his back exploded with golden light. Carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged Great Peng clan, he was squeezing the twin hatred sect Master Hin Tian, whose pupils contracted and eyes were filled with shock and fear, like an ant. That kid didn't die. When did he subdue the silver-winged demonic condor? How is it possible? How could the silver-winged demonic condor be subdued by that kid? This is impossible. In the air, Shui Tianqiu, Mountain Man Wu Zhan, and the others suddenly became envious and embarrassed. Looking at the purple-robed youth floating in the air, a faint feeling of uneasiness crept into their hearts. Those who offend the world society die. The killing intent could no longer be suppressed. Du Xiaofu's cold voice fell from his mouth. A golden light burst out from the hand that grabbed Hin Tian. Kacha, Hin Tian, who had dominated the dark forest for half of his life, suddenly heard a cracking sound from his neck. Then, in his unwilling and fearful eyes, his head was crushed by Du Xiaofu. His body fell, blood spurting out. Big brother, Hin Tian, who had just climbed out of the rubble, shouted. His eyes were cold and resentful, but he immediately turned around and fled. He knew that he could not resist at all. Want to escape? It's too late. A ray of azure gold light swept out from Du Xiaofu's hand. A dazzling azure gold rune suddenly bloomed, like the golden feathers of a golden-winged great pong. Splendor poured down, turning into an azure gold sword whip, like a dragon soaring into the sky. Chi-la-la, wherever the sword whip passed, a long ravine would appear in the square below. Cracks would appear on the ground one after another, as if an earthquake had occurred. Countless Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect disciples had their bodies torn apart. Whoosh! The azure gold sword whip swept out sharply, agile and charming. It also swept directly at Hin Tian's chest from an incredible angle. Not good. Hin Tian, who had been severely injured by the silver-winged demonic condor, was shocked and quickly dodged. However, the terrifying, agile and charming sword whip was like a ghost, like a dragon circling around, and then swept into Hin Tian's chest. Bang, bang, bang. On the azure gold sword whip, a terrifying energy burst out, destroying all the possible defenses, and then his body exploded. Whoosh, whoosh. Seeing that another king-level expert was killed by Du Xiaofu, whether it was the demon beasts on the Chaos Demon Cliff, the disciples of the World Society, or the experts of the Dark Alliance, all of them suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air. After killing Hin Tian, Du Xiaofu's figure soared into the sky, looking straight at Xue Tianqiu. His figure was like lightning as he flapped his wings and swept across. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever the figure flapped his wings, a large number of disciples of the Black Fiend sect and the Twin Hatred sect below could not resist the terrifying pressure under Du Xiaofu's deliberate actions. Their bodies collapsed, and the stronger ones bled from their 7 orifices. Seeing Du Xiaofu flying over, the silver-winged demonic condor automatically moved aside. Feeling the monstrous killing intent and murderous intent on Du Xiaofu's body, even the silver-winged demonic condor felt a chill in its heart. Xue Tianqiu's eyes trembled as he looked at the figure wrapped in golden light approaching. With the silver-winged demonic condor beside him, he was afraid that he would not be able to escape. The enmity of his son's death was irreconcilable. Back then, he had obtained a treasure in the secret area, an egg that might have been an ancient species. He had fought with the silver-winged demonic condor and was heavily injured, but in the end, it still fell into the hands of Du Xiaofu. The hatred had been accumulated for a long time, and now he could only fight. If he could capture Du Xiaofu, then there was still a chance for everything to turn around, and victory would still belong to him. Xue Tianqiu. Brat, the enmity of my son's death will be paid with your life. His eyes trembling, Xue Tianqiu was enraged. His killing intent surged and covered the sky, like a dark cloud enveloping the space, and even his figure disappeared within. Walala! Then, the surging killing intent condensed into a huge ferocious beast wrapped in killing intent. It looked like a spider, a scorpion, and a python, as if it had crawled out from hell. Its aura was incomparably terrifying, and it could affect the soul and mind. Black Fiend Burning Sky, this is Xue Tianqiu's strongest trump card. Using the fusion of his meridian spirit and killing intent as the price, it is extremely cold and extremely sinister. It is an extremely sinister and evil thing, enough to fight against those above its level. Looking at the terrifying scene in front of him, the Medicine King Yi Wuming's face turned serious. For Xue Tianqiu to be able to move unhindered in the dark forest and faintly become the #1 expert in the dark forest, it was definitely not an undeserved reputation. Woo woo, the ferocious beast's mouth let out a ghostly howl, killing intent surged, and dark clouds rolled, sweeping across the sky, causing people's hearts to tremble. It was incomparably terrifying, and directly slapped towards Du Xiaofu. Ayo! A golden stream of light swept out from Du Xiaofu's shoulder, and in the blink of an eye, a huge golden ape like a terrifying supreme being was born. The mysterious runes on the runes evolved, giving people a feeling of the beginning of the world and the beginning of all things. Demons and monsters, all of you disappear for me. The golden ape roared. It was born with spiritual eyes that overlooked everything. The golden talisman runes that covered the sky around its body erupted, causing the surrounding space to ripple violently. A terrifying aura erupted, emitting an aura of extreme yang. It was as if a supreme being had descended, capable of dominating and suppressing everything. Walala! In the blink of an eye, the surrounding terrifying killing intent, under the suppression of the mysterious runes on the golden ape's body, was directly purified and dissipated under the countless shocked gazes in the sky. It had met its nemesis. It was simply unparalleled. Kill. At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body. The great rock flapped its wings and soared to the 9 heavens. The tyrant shadow in his hand once again turned into a golden sword whip and rushed into the killing intent, destroying everything in its path. Swish! The golden sword whip's final momentum was like lightning, destroying everything as it directly swept into the body of the huge, ferocious beast. Gee! As the golden sword whip swept in, a golden light erupted, faintly transforming into a golden-winged rock's shadow on the ferocious beast's body. The light overflowed, and the majestic light filled the air, suppressing everything. Walala! The huge, ferocious beast's eyes were filled with fear and despair, and then its body directly exploded, shattering inch by inch, turning into broken runes. Finally, Xue Tianqiu's figure was revealed. Xue Tianqiu, I've been waiting for you for a long time. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared like a ghost, and as his cold killing intent fell, the golden sword whip in his hand spun, and then directly swept into Du Xiaofu's back. Finally, the tyrant shadow revolved around Du Xiaofu's hand, and golden light poured out. This king has been unhindered for half of my life. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Xue Tianqiu looked at the bloody hole in his chest, and a golden light erupted from his body. Then, his eyes tightly stared at Du Xiaofu with resentment and unwillingness, and then his body exploded into a bloody mist, completely falling in midair. Gu Gu, the Black Fiend sect master, Xue Tianqiu, was also directly beheaded in midair. At this moment, the surrounding people all swallowed their saliva and mouths dry. Another 4,000-word chapter. Little you didn't slack off, and continued to fiercely beg for flowers. Little you also continued to write. Recently, I've been working hard to update as early as possible. Begging for flowers, begging for love, no matter what, I'm about to set foot on a new map and walk into the true world of martial gods. Chapter 545. So strong. Wan Sampang, who was in the middle of an intense battle, also gasped and shivered. He knew that he had managed to escape with his life today. If he hadn't listened to Mu Mingqing's words and changed sides at the last minute, it was easy to imagine what would have happened to him. He would have ended up like Hateful Heaven, Hateful Earth, and Xue Tianqiu. After killing Xue Tianqiu, Du Xiaofu flapped his wings in the air and looked around. He turned around like lightning and pounced towards the Medicine King. In a short instant, he appeared in front of the pale-faced Medicine King. Chi! The Medicine King stumbled back in the poisonous fog that filled the air. He looked at Du Xiaofu, who had just appeared in front of him, and a slight smile appeared on his pale face. Then, he glanced at the poisonous fog and said to Du Xiaofu, "This guy is called 5 Poisons Mountain Man. Wuzhen Mountain Man called him over. His poison techniques are very powerful and even his soul is poisonous. I'll leave him to you. Be careful. Leave him to me." Du Xiaofu nodded slightly and smiled at the Medicine King. Then, he raised his head and slowly looked at the 5 Poisons Mountain Man, who was surrounded by poisonous fog. The heart of the 5 Poison Mountain member trembled for no reason when he saw Du Xiaofu's gaze. The sharp and intimidating gaze in the purple-robed young man's eyes and the fiendish aura all over his body caused him to feel extremely uncomfortable in his heart. The gaze on his face twitched slightly, after which he stared intently at Du Xiaofu with a dark and cold gaze as he said, "You are Du Xiaofu?" Du Xiaofu completely ignored the five poisons hermit's words. He merely glanced at the five poisons hermit indifferently and softly said, "You are merely at the six-star mysterious realm. I will not let you live today. Brat, you're looking for death. Let your grandpa Poison teach you what poison techniques are." Seeing Du Xiaofu's indifferent expression that did not seem to care about him at all, the five poisons mountain man was instantly enraged. He waved his hand and countless runes moved. Boom! In an instant, with the five poisons hermit's body as the center, a large amount of highly toxic black profound chi surged out, causing the surrounding space to violently tremble. Following which, an ear-piercing humming sound spread out from the black profound chi poison fog in the air. Accompanying this storm-like riot was the whistling of the airflow. Huff, huff. Then, within the poisonous fog, strange runes flickered. In the end, it turned into a huge demon scorpion. Its entire body was black, and black light spread out. Its smell was so fishy that it made people's souls uncomfortable. With a glance, one could tell that it was terrifyingly toxic. The gigantic demon scorpion had 4 wings, and its body was over 30 meters long. Its tail was sharp and covered with dark runes, and its entire body was overflowing with poisonous gas. As the gigantic demon scorpion condensed, many of the surrounding people's gazes trembled. The monstrous poisonous gas spread out, causing people to continuously retreat, not daring to approach. This was the terror of those who practiced the art of poison. No one was willing to come into contact with such a terrifying poison. Brat, you have some skill. Unfortunately, you are destined to die under your grandpa five poisons poison techniques today. The five poisons hermit sneered. When he activated his strongest poison technique, even a martial royal realm cultivator would have to retreat, not daring to go against him. Although the art of poison was difficult to practice, it also required special talent and a price that ordinary people would not be able to pay. However, once the art of poison was practiced, it would cause people to retreat. They would be terror-stricken, and it would be difficult for them to contend against it. Huff, huff. As the five poisons hermit sneered, the gigantic poisonous scorpion immediately pounced towards Du Xiaofu. Huff, huff, huff. The terrifying poisonous fog covered the sky and swept across the land. At that moment, dozens of disciples from the Black Fiend sect, Twin Hatred sect, Mu Family Fort, Myriad Clouds Pavilion, and the World Society were among them. Those who were slightly slower to escape came into contact with the spreading poisonous fog. Their bodies immediately swelled up, and blood flowed out from their 7 orifices. Their bodies turned black, and they turned into a black blood fog amidst their miserable cries. The blood fog spilled everywhere, and no one dared to touch it. When it landed on the ground, it corroded the ground, causing bubbles to appear. A large patch of the ground turned black, and from then on, not a single blade of grass would grow on the ground. Anyone who stepped on it would be corroded by the poisonous fog. The terrifying poison was already so terrifying once it spread out. From this, one could tell how terrifying the five poisons hermit's poison technique was. The poisonous scorpion that he had condensed was so poisonous that even a martial royal realm cultivator would have to retreat. Be careful. The terrifying poisonous scorpion followed by the poisonous fog enveloped Du Xiaofu. In the distance, Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Hua Fankong, and the others sucked in a breath of cold air, their hearts on tenterhooks. Huff, huff, huff. As everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, the poisonous scorpion followed the poisonous fog and crushed Du Xiaofu. It enveloped Du Xiaofu's body. However, the terrifying poisonous fog was useless against Du Xiaofu. Under the golden glow that surrounded Du Xiaofu, the poisonous fog could not corrode or invade him at all. Boom. However, at this moment, Du Xiaofu's runic wings flapped, and his hand slapped towards the poisonous scorpion. In that instant, a terrifying golden glow burst out like the sun. Walala! In a short moment, the huge poisonous scorpion disintegrated inch by inch, finally turning into broken runes. The golden glow spread out, causing the poisonous fog to dissipate as if it had met its nemesis. Du Xiaoman, Du Yunlong, Pill King, Eagle King, and the others were all dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded and filled with disbelief. This bit of poison is nothing to the golden rock. Only the nearby silver-winged demonic condor was full of smiles. He did not find it strange at all. In the primordial era, the true Pong fed on dragons. The primordial era's ferocious beasts were even more so its food. Among them, the true Pong swallowed the venomous beasts without fear. The Hall Master's entire body was covered in the blood of the golden-winged great Pong. Although he could not compare to the primordial true Pong, it was child's play to deal with the 5 poisons mountain's poison. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, seeing that the poisonous scorpion he had condensed was easily destroyed and that his poison technique was unable to do anything to Du Xiaofu, the expression of the 5 poisons hermit changed drastically. It was as if his mood had suddenly fallen from heaven to hell, and he immediately wanted to quickly escape. However, at this moment, it was too late for the 5 poisons hermit to escape. Du Xiaofu's figure had already appeared in front of him like lightning. Killing intent shot out from his eyes as indifferent and cold words came from his mouth. This bit of poison technique is not enough. You have also violated the great taboo of having a weak body. Die. At the same time as his voice sounded, a green-gold sword glow hacked down like lightning. Accompanied by an incomparably overbearing energy, the sword glow was like lightning as it ruthlessly landed on the 5 poisons hermit's body. Chila, as the sword fell, the defense on the 5 poisons hermit's body was instantly destroyed like tofu. The terrifying sword glow landed and swept into the 5 poisons hermit's body. Immediately, the 5 poisons hermit spat out large mouthfuls of blood. His eyes were filled with fear and shock. Before he could cry out, his body had already been split into 2, turning into a bloody mist that filled the sky. Goo goo. Seeing the 5 poisons hermit's body turn into a bloody mist, the entire place was shocked, following which, gasps could be heard everywhere. Not good. Run. Seeing the 5 poisons hermit killed, the 5 poisons hermit's soul trembled and a chill ran down his spine. How would he dare to stay any longer? He immediately flew into the air and fled. The situation was already over, and there was no way for him to counterattack. The 5 poisons hermit could only flee or die. Swoosh, swoosh. The 5 poisons hermit fled rapidly, wishing that he could be faster. With all his strength, his figure seemed to have turned into a long rainbow. Trying to escape, the silver-winged demonic condor, who had been waiting by the side, raised his sharp gaze and was about to give chase. With his speed, it was impossible for the 5 poisons hermit to escape. Silver Condor, there's no need to chase. He won't be able to escape. Du Xiaofu stopped the silver-winged demonic condor as he looked at the space in front of him. There was a familiar aura soaring into the sky. The aura was extremely far away, and if not for the recent increase in his mental energy, he would not have been able to detect it. It's the Deputy Hall Master. The silver-winged demonic condor looked in the direction the 5 poisons hermit had fled, and his expression changed drastically. The silver-winged demonic condor immediately sensed the familiar aura. It was a familiar aura that even he had to be wary of. Chilala. In less than 3 breaths' time, while many people were wondering why Du Xiaofu did not chase after Mountain Man Wu Zhan, a ray of light shot down from the sky in front of them like a meteorite. Finally, it smashed into the ruined ground below, which was in a complete mess. Blood flowed like a river, causing the ground to rumble. The earth shook and the mountains swayed. Rock fragments shot out and formed a large pit. Ugh! Many pairs of eyes were stunned as they looked over. All of them were shocked to discover that the person who had been ruthlessly slammed into the ground was the 5 poisons hermit, who had just fled. His eyes had already turned white from shock as he spat out large mouthfuls of fresh blood. Huff, huff. Everyone inhaled a breath of cool air. They did not know who had thrown the 5 poisons hermit back. Looking at his miserable appearance, it was clear that the person who had thrown him, a 6-star mysterious soul symbol master, had to be terrifyingly powerful to be able to turn him into such a miserable state. If Elder Brother had not prohibited me from attacking, I would have killed you last time. I never expected that you would still dare to come and seek death. A clear and melodious voice resounded, and the figure of a young girl appeared in midair. Accompanied by a faint green brilliance, her green dress fluttered slightly, and her long black hair was as smooth as a waterfall, all the way to her soft waist and buttocks. Her legs were long and slender, and her figure was enchanting and graceful. The young lady was extremely beautiful. However, she appeared to be only 15 or 16 years old. Her face, which could cause the downfall of a country, had a youthful look that did not quite match her naturally enchanting and alluring appearance. At this moment, her pure black eyes were filled with a cold and noble aura that caused one to prostrate before her. Greetings, Deputy Hall Master. The silver-winged demonic eagle, subduing tiger tyrant mastiff and blue flame red leopard immediately stepped into the air and bowed when they saw the young lady in a green dress. The golden demon python and the other beasts in the distance also prostrated themselves and bowed. Who else could this graceful young lady be other than Du Shaoqing? Roar! The surrounding beasts roared as they sensed the aura spreading from Du Shaoqing's body. They respectfully prostrated themselves on the ground. Today's update has been completed. Brothers, please send fresh flowers after you have finished reading. Xiao Yu bowed in thanks. Chapter 546. She seems to have broken through. Du Xiaofu gazed at the alluring girl in front of him. The aura emanating from her body seemed to be much stronger than before. How can she be so strong? And it's the aura of a beast. Mountain Man Wuzhen crawled out of the rubble in the deep pit and looked at the azure-clothed girl in the sky. He had seen her before at the World Gathering, but he did not know that this girl's cultivation had reached such a level. Compared to the terrifying Du Xiaofu, she seemed even more terrifying. Only now did Hermit Wuzhen understand that Du Xiaofu had let him go last time, because he thought that Du Xiaofu was wary of him being a 6-star mysterious spirit talisman master. Even the Medicine King might not be able to keep him here, so he had to let him go. But now, he understood that if the girl in green had made a move last time, he wouldn't have been able to escape. Chi! Du Xiaofu's figure swooped down like a great pung soaring through the sky. A vast pressure descended and suppressed Hermit Wuzhen, who had been beaten into a miserable state by Du Shaoqing. He directly restrained Hermit Wuzhen in his hand before flapping his wings and rising into the sky again. Mountain Man Wuzhen struggled with all his might, but to no avail. The vast and mighty suppressive force was incomparably overbearing, and it was not something he could contend against. Only at this moment did he truly realize just how powerful the purple-robed young man before him was. Everyone watched as the last King Realm expert, Hermit Wuzhen, was captured alive. Everyone looked up at the sky. The entire miserable battlefield had descended into an inexplicable silence for no reason at this moment. Numerous gazes stared intently at the purple-robed young man in midair. Du Xiaofu looked at the restrained Hermit Wuzhen in his hand with a cold glint in his eyes. He said softly, "Do you know why I let you go last time instead of killing you? I had already predicted that with your personality, you would most likely go to the Black Fiend sect. And the Black Fiend sect was also the sect I wanted to destroy. It seems like my guess was right. You really came with Xue Tianqiu. You didn't know that I could easily destroy you at any time, but you were jumping around like a grasshopper, seeking your own death." His indifferent voice resounded in the sky, allowing many people to hear him clearly. Third Fatty Wan, Mu Mingqing, and many others trembled. So all of this was within the purple-robed youth's expectations. Their coming here meant that today's the end. Mu Mingqing and Third Fatty Wan editor, Cloud Heaven and Earthside. If Xue of Heaven and Earth and Xue Tianqiu, they would have died. Heaven and Earth. If Xue Tianqiu and Hengdi had heard this, they would have been if Xue Tianqiu and Hengdi. So all of this was within the president's expectations. Hua Fankong, Xiao Wenxing, Chao Yu, and the others were also shocked. It was no wonder that the president did not exterminate Mountain Man Wuzhen. He had purposely let Mountain Man Wuzhen lure Xue Tianqiu to Chaotic Demon City. "Don't kill me. No, I am willing to submit. Don't kill me." Mountain Man Wuzhen's eyes were filled with fear. His pale face was twitching, and his soul was trembling. He did not want to die. At his age and cultivation level, he was even more unwilling to die. You can't be left alive. This is your own choice. Killing intent flashed across Du Xiaofu's eyes as his indifferent words fell. Suddenly, a golden light gushed out from his hand like a volcano. Bang bang. A dull sound rang out like thunder. Mountain Man Wuzhan's pupils constricted. He did not even have time to scream. Golden light instantly rushed out of his body, and his body exploded in midair. Mountain Man Wuzhan's six-star mysterious realm body was completely destroyed. He could not be more dead. Following Mountain Man Wuzhan's death, the hearts of the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect's disciples trembled. King-level experts were killed one after another like ants. At this moment, how could the remaining people of the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect still have the heart to resist? They looked at each other with fear in their eyes. The few martial lords were the first to kneel on one knee. They looked at Du Xiaofu in the sky and said with a trembling voice, "We are willing to submit to the world society." Clang, 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 clang. The sound of weapons falling to the ground could be heard. At this moment, the remaining 300,000 Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect disciples all knelt on the ground. "We are willing to submit to the world society. We are willing to submit to the world society." The voices of surrendering resounded like thunder in the sky. At this moment, the disciples of the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect knew that they no longer had the strength to resist. They could only surrender to save their lives. Du Xiaofu looked down at the sky. The wings on his back shone with a golden light. Suddenly, he swung the tyrant shadow in his hand downwards. A sword light dozens of feet long burst out. As the sword light swept past, it seemed to split the space in half. Bang, bang, bang. As the sword aura fell, under the shocked gazes of many people, a long gully exploded on the ground. Low sonic booms rang out incessantly. More than 10 martial marquee cultivators from the Black Fiend sect and the Twin Hatred sect were caught off guard and killed. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Those who offend the world society will be killed without mercy. These cold words came out of Du Xiaofu's mouth. The murderous aura around him swept out. A debt of blood must be paid with blood. Kill without mercy. In that short moment of stupefaction, the world society disciples instantly let out battle cries. One by one, the world society disciples pounced forward. Roar! Thousands of beasts roared and howled. The beast tide swept out. Everywhere it passed, it destroyed everything. The smell of blood filled the air. Ah, run! Run quickly! Blood-curdling screams rang out. Hundreds of thousands of disciples from the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect fled in panic. However, how many of them could escape at this moment? What awaited them was only a bloody massacre. Third Fatty Wan, Mu Mingqing, Chao Yu, and many others looked at the purple-robed young man in the sky. They sighed in their hearts. Perhaps at this moment, everyone understood a principle. There were some people in this world who seemed to be gentle and elegant. However, once they were provoked and the anger in their hearts was aroused, the opponent would not even have the chance to surrender and beg for mercy in the end. A bloody massacre lasted from morning to dusk. For the entire day, blood flowed like a river outside Chaos Demon City. The smell of blood filled the sky. Chaos Demon City also became a city of blood. In the end, more than 300,000 elite disciples from the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect were all killed by the World Society, Heavenly Beast Hall, Mu Clan Fort, and 10,000 Clouds Pavilion. Not many could escape. Blood flowed like a river outside Chaos Demon City. There were broken limbs and bones everywhere. In the end, they were devoured by the thousands of beasts in the Heavenly Beast Hall and cleaned up. However, the blood stains and the smell of blood in the square did not dissipate for a while. The Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect were completely destroyed. The 10,000 Clouds Pavilion and Mu Clan Fort changed sides at the last minute. It was rumored that Du Xiaofu did not die and was still the leader of the Heavenly Beast Hall. He had already subdued the silver-winged demonic eagle at the Chaos Demon Cliff. This news immediately spread from all sides. Especially after hundreds of thousands of people from the Black Fiend sect and Twin Hatred sect surrendered, they were also mercilessly killed by Du Xiaofu. This was even more shocking. When the news spread, it sent chills down everyone's spine. At this moment, The entire dark forest realized that although Du Xiaofu of the world society looked young, he was definitely not to be trifled with. Once they provoked him, they would not even have the chance to kneel and beg for mercy in the end. At night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The air was still filled with a thick smell of blood. The poison in your bodies is powerful, but it's not a big problem. There are many antidotes in the 5 poisons Hermit's Chinkuan bag. After I look around, I should be able to find the antidote you want. Even if there's no antidote, it's not a big problem. I can still cure this poison. It's just that it's a little troublesome, the Medicine King said to the seated Mu Mingqing and Third Fatty Wan in the World Society's main hall. Thank you, Medicine King. Third Fatty Wan and Mu Mingqing stood up and cupped their hands in thanks. They also heaved a sigh of relief. They had been forced to join the Dark Alliance. Everyone had been trapped in a talisman array set up by Wuzhen Hermit. In addition to the 5 poisons Hermit's poison, they had been forced to join the Dark Alliance. There's no need for the 2 of you to be so polite. I've already arranged for my disciples to prepare a place for the 2 of you to rest. We can talk about other matters tomorrow, the Medicine King said to the 2 of them. Then we'll take our leave first. Mu Mingqing and Third Fatty Wan cupped their hands and left. The 2 of them were exhausted today and needed to adjust their breathing to recover. The disciples of the Mu family fort and the Black Fiend sect were already on their way back. Only a few experts were left in Chaos Demon City. As the 2 of them left the main hall, a purple-robed figure slowly walked out from the inner hall. He carried a broadsword on his back. His figure was tall and straight, and his eyes were deep and clear on his resolute face.